It is a quiet evening in late autumn where the air is cool and the sky is a deep shade of indigo that stretches endlessly across the horizon. You're standing at the edge of a vast field of wheat that sways gently in the soft breeze, a rhythmic motion that mimics the slow, steady beating of a calm heart. The stalks of wheat are dry and golden, creating a soft, rustling sound as they brush against one another. A sound that is dry and whispering like the turning of pages in an ancient book you take. A slow, deep breath in and smell the scent of the dry earth and the fading warmth of the day. It is a scent that reminds you of old wood and comfort. You begin to walk slowly down a narrow dirt path that cuts through the center of the field. Your feet move at a heavy, relaxed pace, one step after another, listening to the soft crunch of soil beneath your shoes. There's no rush here. There's nowhere else you need to be, only here in this moment of absolute stillness and peace. The sun has just dipped below the horizon, leaving a faint glow of orange and purple that paints the undersides of the few scattered clouds. These clouds are moving so slowly that they appear to be frozen in time, suspended in the vast ocean of sky. You watch them for a moment, simply drifting, heavy and soft, just like your eyelids are beginning to feel heavy and soft and ready to close. As you continue to walk, the light begins to fade further, turning the golden wheat into shades of bronze and shadow. The world is tucking itself in for night, preparing for a long, deep rest. Far in the distance, you can see the outline of a small farmhouse. Its windows are dark, and it sits silently against the backdrop of a low, rolling hill. You walk towards it, feeling the gentle pull of sleep with every step. The air is getting cooler now, but it is a pleasant cool, a refreshing chill that makes you want to wrap yourself in a warm, heavy blanket. You reach the end of the field and step onto a paved road that leads to a small, sleepy town. The town is quiet. The streets are empty, and the only sound is a low hum of the streetlights that are just beginning to flicker on. Their light is warm and yellow, casting long, soft shadows on the pavement. You walk past a row of old oak trees. Their branches are bare, and they reach up towards the darkening sky, like silent guardians of night. The bark on the trees is rough and textured, covered in patches of soft green moss that feels like velvet to the touch. You imagine running your hand along the rough bark, feeling the coolness and solidity of the wood. Walking further, you pass by a small library. The building is made of red brick that has faded over the decades into a soft, dusty pink. The windows are tall and arched, and through the glass you can see rows and rows of books. Thousands of books standing side by side in perfect silence. Think about the paper inside those books. Millions of pages of cream-colored paper, smelling of vanilla and almond and dust, resting quietly on the wooden shelves, waiting, sleeping. The library is closed and the stillness inside is profound, a heavy blanket of silence that covers every shelf and every corner. You imagine walking inside, the floorboards creaking ever so slightly under your weight, walking down the narrow aisles between the towering shelves, running your fingers along the spines of the books, feeling the texture of the leather bindings. Some are smooth and cool, others are rough and cracked with age. You pick a book at random and open it. The pages make a soft sound as they turn, a whisper in a quiet room. You read a sentence about the history of a small town in the Midwest, a town very much like this one, where nothing much ever happens and the days bleed into one another in a comforting loop of routine and predictability. You close the book and place it back on the shelf, leaving it to rest once more. You step back out onto the street and continue your slow walk. The town is asleep now. The houses are dark and silent. You can hear the distant sound of a train whistle blowing softly in night, a low, mournful sound that travels for miles across the open plains. It is a sound that speaks of distance and travel, of moving slowly through the darkness towards a destination that is miles away. You imagine being on that train, sitting in a plush velvet seat, feeling the rhythmic clatter of the wheels on the tracks, clack, 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 a steady hypnotic rhythm that rocks you gently back and forth. The train car is warm and dimly lit. The other passengers are asleep, their heads resting against the windows or on small pillows. Outside the window, the world is a blur of darkness, occasionally punctuated by a solitary light from a distant farmhouse, watching the lights flicker past, one by one, counting them as your eyes grow heavier and heavier. The train rocks you. The sound of the wheels soothes you, carrying you deeper into relaxation. But now you are back on a quiet street in a small town, walking slowly toward a small park in the center of the square. There's a fountain in the middle of the park. The water is turned off for the winter, but the stone basin is filled with fallen leaves, dry and brown and curling at the edges. You sit down on a wooden bench facing the fountain. The wood is cool and solid beneath you, offering a firm support. You lean back and look up at the sky. The stars are beginning to appear, tiny pinpricks of light in the vast canvas of the dark. They twinkle steadily, ancient and far away. You try to count them, starting from the left and moving slowly to the right. 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4, 5. The numbers blur in your mind as you gaze at the infinite expanse. It is so vast and so quiet up there, a silence that has existed for billions of years, a silence that wraps around the earth like a soft blanket. You close your eyes for a moment and listen to the sound of night. The wind rustling to the dry leaves on the ground, a soft scratching sound like whispered secrets, the distant hum of a car engine fading away into nothingness, the beat of your own heart slow and steady in your chest. Thump, 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 you feel. A deep sense of heaviness spreading through your body, starting from your toes and moving up through your legs, your knees, your thighs. Your muscles are releasing all their tension, melting into the bench. The heaviness moves into your stomach, your chest, your shoulders. Your arms hang loosely at your sides. Your fingers are curled and relaxed. Your neck is loose. Your jaw is unclenched. Your face is smooth and expressionless. You are completely at peace, completely at rest, simply existing. In this quiet moment, in this quiet town, you decide to stand up and walk a little further. Your movements are slow and deliberate, as if you are moving through water. You walk toward the edge of the town where the road turns back into a dirt path leading into a dense forest. The trees here are tall pines, their needles creating a soft carpet on the forest floor. The air smells of pine resin and damp earth. It is a clean, crisp scent that clears your mind of all thoughts. It is dark in the forest, but your eyes have adjusted to gloom. You can see the outlines of tree trunks, thick and sturdy, rising up like pillars in Grand Cathedral. You walk softly on the pine needles, your footsteps making no sound. You are a ghost passing through the woods, observing but not disturbing. The forest is filled with a deep, abiding silence, the kind of silence that feels heavy and protective. You find a small clearing where a large flat rock sits covered in a thick layer of moss. You sit on the rock and run your hand over the moss. It is incredibly soft and damp, like a living sponge. You look around the clearing, watching the shadows lengthen and merge as the night deepens. You think about the history of this forest, how the trees have stood here for hundreds of years, growing slowly, inch by inch, ring by ring, surviving storms and winters and droughts, always standing, always silent, watching the world change around them while they remain the same. It is a comforting thought, this permanence, this stability. You feel a kinship with the trees, a sense of rootedness and calm. You are part of this stillness, part of this ancient, slow rhythm of nature. You take another deep breath, inhaling the peace of the forest, exhaling the last remnants of the day, letting go of everything, letting go of thoughts, letting go of worries, letting go of time. There is no time here, only the present moment, only the darkness and the quiet. You feel yourself drifting, floating, sinking deeper into a state of pure relaxation. Your mind is a blank slate, smooth and clear like the surface of a still lake at dawn. Not a ripple disturbs the surface, not a breath of wind stirs the water. It is perfectly calm, perfectly still. You are safe here, you are warm, you are comfortable. Sleep is waiting for you, standing just at the edge of your consciousness, a welcoming friend with open arms. You are ready to go with it, ready to surrender to the velvet darkness, ready to close your eyes and let the world fade away completely, leaving only the silence and the peace and the soft, gentle rhythm of your own breathing. In and out, slow and deep, slow and deep. You stand up slowly from a mossy rock, feeling the dampness that has seeped slightly into your clothes, but it is a grounding feeling connecting you to the earth. You turn and begin to walk out of the clearing, moving deeper into the woods where the canopy above is so thick that it blocks out most of the starlight, leaving you in a comfortable cocoon of near total darkness. Your eyes are fully adapted now, and you can see the faint gray shapes of ferns unfurling on the forest floor, their fronds curled tight against the cold night air. You reach out and brush your fingers against the tips of a fern, feeling the rough texture and the delicate structure of the plant. It is a small interaction, a tiny moment of connection between you and the living world. You continue walking until you hear the faint sound of running water, a gentle trickling sound that grows slightly louder as you approach. It is a small creek, winding its way through the trees. The water is black and glossy, reflecting nothing but the shadows. You stand on the bank and watch the water flow. It moves over smooth gray stones, making a soft, burbling noise that is continuous and unchanging. The water never stops. It never hurries. It just flows, mile after mile, year after year, carving its path through the earth with infinite patience. You watch a single leaf floating on the surface. It spins slowly in an eddy caught in a gentle current before drifting downstream. Disappearing into the dark, you follow. The creek for a while, walking along the muddy bank. The mud is soft under your shoes, yielding slightly with every step. The air here is cooler and smells of wet stone and algae, a scent that is old and primitive. Eventually the trees begin to thin out, and you emerge from the forest onto a grassy hill that overlooks a valley. Below you is a vast expanse of farmland, a patchwork quilt of fields separated by low stone walls and hedgerows. Everything is bathed in the silvery light of the moon, which has now risen high in the sky. It is a full moon, bright and round, a silent watcher illuminating the world with a cool, pale glow. You can see the shadows of the clouds moving slowly across the fields below, giant gray shapes drifting over the land like silent ships on a sea of grass. You sit down on the grass. The blades are cool and slightly damp with dew. You run your hands over grass, feeling the moisture. It is a tactile sensation that brings you into the present moment. You look up at the moon again, noticing the craters and the dark patches on its surface. The seas of tranquility and storms. Names given by astronomers long ago who spent their nights peering through telescopes, mapping a world they would never touch. You think about those astronomers sitting in cold observatories, scribbling notes in leather journals, their eyes tired but focused, counting the stars, tracking the planets. A slow, meticulous work that spans centuries, just like the slow, meticulous work of nature. The grass growing, the wind blowing, the earth turning. You lie back on the grass and look straight up into the sky. The vastness is overwhelming but not frightening. It is comforting to be so small beneath something so large. You feel gravity holding you down, a gentle constant force that keeps you anchored to planet, preventing you from floating away into the void. You close your eyes and listen to the wind again. It is stronger here on the hill, rushing past your ears with hollow, whooshing sound. It sounds like the ocean, waves crashing on a distant shore, rising and falling, a rhythmic lullaby that sings you to sleep. You imagine you are a stone, a heavy gray stone sitting in the middle of the field. You have no thoughts, no feelings, no worries. You simply exist, solid and unmoving. The sun warms you in the day. The rain washes you. The wind dries you. The seasons change around you. Spring turns to summer. The grass grows tall and green. Insects buzz. In the warm air, summer turns to autumn. The grass turns gold and brown. The air grows crisp. Leaves fall and cover you. Winter comes. Snow blankets the field, burying you in a layer of white silence. You are cold and still, sleeping beneath the snow, waiting for the cycle to begin again. It is a peaceful existence, a life of simple being. You open your eyes and sit up. The night is still young, but you feel centuries old. You stand up and brush the grass from your clothes. You begin to walk down the hill towards the valley floor. The descent is easy, gravity aiding your steps. You reach the bottom and find a narrow paved road. The asphalt is gray and cracked with weeds growing through the fissures. You walk down the center of the road, following the yellow line that has faded to a pale lemon color. On your left is an old wooden fence. The paint is peeled away, leaving the wood gray and weathered. You run your hand along the top rail, feeling the splinters and the rough grain. You pass a mailbox standing crookedly on a wooden post. The red flag is down. It is empty, waiting for letters that may never come. You wonder about the letters that passed through that box over the years. Bills and postcards, birthday cards and catalogs, mundane pieces of paper that carry the small details of ordinary lives. You continue walking until you see a barn in the distance. It is a large structure with a gambrel roof. The red paint is faded and chipped. The large double doors are slightly ajar. You walk towards it, drawn by the darkness inside. You step to the gap in the doors and enter the barn. The air inside is still and filled with dust motes dancing the shafts of moonlight that pierce through the gaps in the siding. It smells of old hay and dry wood and rusted metal, a smell that is thick and nostalgic. You walk slowly across the floorboards, which are covered in a layer of straw and dirt. Your footsteps are muffled here. You see old farm equipment resting in the shadows, a tractor with rusted wheels, a plow with a dull blade, tools hanging on the wall, hammers and saws and wrenches, all silent, all waiting. You imagine people who use these tools, their hands rough and calloused, working from dawn until dusk, a life of repetitive labor, planting and harvesting, fixing and building, day after day, year after year, a slow, steady rhythm of work and rest. You find a stack of hay bales in the corner and sit down. The hay is prickly but yielding. You lean back against the wooden wall and close your eyes. The barn is a shelter, a safe haven from the outside world. You can hear the wind whistling through the cracks in the walls, but inside it is calm. You listen to the settling noises of the building, the wood creaking as it cools, a mouse skittering across the floor somewhere in the dark. Tiny sounds that emphasize the silence. You feel your breathing slowing down even more, matching the slow pulse of the night. Your chest rises and falls, rises and falls. You are sinking deeper into the hay, deeper into the darkness, deeper into sleep. Your mind is drifting away from the barn, away from the valley, away from the earth, floating in a sea of gray mist, soft and formless. There is nothing to see here, nothing to do, only to drift weightless and free. The mist wraps around you, cool and damp, soothing your tired mind. You are floating towards a distant light, a soft, warm glow that promises rest, absolute and final rest. But you are not there. Yet you are still here in the barn, breathing, listening, existing. You open your eyes one last time and look at the dust motes. They are suspended in the air, frozen in time. Just like you, suspended in this moment between wakefulness and sleep, you let your eyelids droop. They are so heavy now, leaden weights that you cannot lift. You let them close, shutting out the barn, shutting out the moonlight, shutting out the world. You are ready to sleep. You are ready to dream of nothing, absolutely nothing, just the color gray and the sound of silence. You shift your weight slightly in the hay and decide to stand up once more, moving with a slowness that feels deliberate and heavy as if the air around you has turned to syrup. You brush the stray pieces of straw from your coat and walk slowly back toward the barn doors, stepping out into the cool night air which feels refreshing against your skin. The moon is still high above, but now a thin veil of clouds has begun to drift across its face, diffusing the light into a soft, milky glow that spreads evenly across the landscape. You find the paved road again and turn left, walking away from the town and away from the valley. The road here is straight and flat, stretching out into the distance as far as the eye can see, lying on one side by a row of tall wooden telephone poles. You look at the poles as you pass them. They are dark and weathered, standing like sentinels in a perfect line. You can see the wires strung between them, sagging slightly in the middle, a black line drawn against the gray sky. You listen closely and you can hear a faint humming sound coming from the wires, a low electric buzz that is constant and steady, the sound of energy traveling miles and miles across the country, carrying voices and data through the night while the world sleeps. You count the poles as you walk. 1 pole, 2 poles, 3 poles, the rhythm of your walking matching the spacing of the wood. It is a hypnotic pattern. Step, 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 pass. Step, 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 pass. There is nothing else to do but walk and breathe. The landscape around you is flattening out, becoming a wide open plain of low scrub brush and sandy soil. The colors are muted shades of gray and brown and sage green, barely visible in the low light. You see a large rock sitting off the side of the road. It is round and smooth, polished by wind and rain over thousands of years. You stop for a moment to look at it, thinking about how long it has sat there, immobile and patient, waiting for nothing, needing nothing, simply existing as a rock. You continue walking, and the air begins to feel slightly more humid, a dampness that clings to your skin and clothes. You smell water nearby, the scent of a stagnant pond or a slow-moving river. Soon you see it on your right, a large body of water that stretches out into the darkness. The surface is like a mirror, perfectly flat and still, reflecting the gray sky and the blurry moon. You leave the road and walk down a gentle slope towards the water's edge, the ground. Here is soft and sandy, your feet sinking in slightly with each step, making a soft crunching sound. You stand at the edge of the lake and look out. There is no far shore visible, just a fade into the gray mist that hangs over the water. It is a world of water and sky, merging together in the distance. You pick up a small flat stone from the sand and hold it in your hand, feeling its weight and its coolness. You drop it into the water, not throwing it, just letting it fall. It hits the surface with a soft plop, breaking the silence for a fraction of a second. Ripples spread out from the point of impact, perfect concentric circles expanding slowly outwards, wider and wider, disturbing the reflection of the moon, making the light dance and shimmer. You watch the ripples until they fade away completely and the surface returns to its glass-like state. As if nothing ever happened, the stillness returns. Heavier than before, you look up at the sky and notice that the clouds are getting thicker, heavier, descending lower toward the earth. A single drop of rain falls, hitting your cheek. It is cool and shocking for a moment, but then pleasant. Then another drop falls, landing on the back of your hand, and another on your shoulder. The rain is beginning, but it is not a storm. It is a slow, gentle drizzle, a soft weeping of the sky. You look around and see a small wooden shelter nearby. Just a simple roof supported by 4 posts, likely a place for fishermen to sit during the day. You walk over to it and stand underneath the roof. Protected from the rain, you lean against one of the wooden posts and watch the weather change. The rain picks up slightly, becoming a steady, consistent patter. You listen to the sound of the drops hitting the roof above you. Tap, 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 tap. A chaotic yet soothing rhythm, like 1,000 tiny fingers drumming on the wood. You look at the surface of the lake. It is now covered in millions of tiny splashes. The water is dancing. The texture has changed from smooth glass to a rough gray fabric. The sound of the rain hitting the water is a soft hissing noise. S-H-H. S-H-H. It is the sound of nature hushing the world, telling everything to be quiet, to be still, to sleep. You close your eyes and focus entirely on the sound, the tapping on the roof, the hissing on the lake, the gentle rustle of the wet leaves in the bushes nearby. The air is filled with the scent of wet earth and rain, a clean metallic smell that fills your lungs and clears your head. You feel safe here under the shelter, dry and warm while the world outside gets washed. You imagine the rain falling on the fields you walked through earlier, turning the dust to mud, weighing down the wheat stalks, darkening the wood of the barn, falling on the roof of the library in the town, washing the streets, falling on the forest, dripping from the pine needles, soaking the moss. The whole world is being wrapped in this blanket of rain, a unifying layer of water that connects everything. You feel a deep sense of heaviness in your eyelids, heavier than before. It is almost impossible to keep them open. You let your head rest against a wooden post. The wood is rough, but it feels solid and supporting. Your legs feel heavy. Your arms feel heavy. Your whole body is sinking downwards, pulled by the gravity of sleep. You are no longer walking, no longer moving. You are just a point of consciousness listening to the rain. The sound is washing over you, rinsing away your thoughts, rinsing away your awareness. You are drifting into a gray space, a space where there is only the sound of water. Tap, tap, tap. S-A-H-H. Tap, tap, tap. S-A-H-H. It is a loop, a never-ending loop of sound that cradles you. You feel yourself slipping away, detaching from the physical world, floating up into gray mist, weightless and free. You are the rain now, falling softly from the sky, drifting down slowly with no effort, no direction, just falling, 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 landing softly on the earth, merging with the soil, becoming part of the ground, still and silent, deep in the earth, where it is dark and quiet and warm. You are seeds sleeping in the winter, waiting, resting, gathering strength, but for now, there's only the rest, only the sleep, only the silence. The rain continues to fall, steady and slow, a lullaby that never ends, and you are finally completely asleep. The rain begins to slow down, now turning from a steady rhythm into a soft, intermittent dripping. The clouds above are breaking apart just enough to let a faint gray light filter through again. You push yourself away from the wooden post of the shelter and step back out onto wet sand. The air is thick with mist, and the world looks soft and unfocused, like a watercolor painting that hasn't quite dried. You turn away from the lake and see a small path leading up a gentle slope towards a cluster of trees. There's a warm yellow light glowing faintly through the branches, a beacon of comfort in the gray morning. You walk toward your feet, making no sound on the damp pine needles that cover the path. The trees here are old and thick with rough bark that looks black in the dim light. You reach the top of the rise and see a small log cabin nestled among the trees. It is a sturdy little building made of round logs chinked with mortar. Smoke is rising slowly from the stone chimney in a straight gray column that disappears into the mist. You walk up the stone steps to the front door. The wood of the door is dark and polished by years of use. You turn the brass knob and it turns easily with a solid heavy click. You push the door open and step inside. The warmth hits you immediately, a gentle enveloping heat that wraps around you like a thick woolen blanket. The air inside smells of cedar wood, and wood smoke and old leather. It is a masculine and comforting scent. You close the door behind you, shutting out the damp and the cold and the gray. You are in a single large room that is dimly lit by the fire crackling in a large stone fireplace on the far wall. The floor is made of wide wooden planks that are smooth and worn, covered in places by thick woven rugs and muted shades of red and brown. You walk across the room toward the fire, your boots making a heavy thudding sound on the floorboards. You take off your damp coat and hang it on a peg by the door, feeling an immediate lightness as the weight is removed from your shoulders. You walk over to the fireplace and stand before it, holding your hands out to the flames. The fire is burning low, mostly glowing red embers with few small tongues of orange flame licking at a large oak log. You watch the flames dance. They are hypnotic, twisting and turning, rising and falling. Never the same shape twice, yet always the same. You listen to the sounds of the fire, the softness of escaping sap, the sudden sharp pop of a spark, the low rumble of the draft pulling the smoke up the chimney. It is a primitive sound, a sound that humans have listened to for thousands of years, a sound that means safety and home. You turn away from the fire and see a large leather armchair sitting in the corner. The leather is old and cracked, a deep, rich brown color that looks like melted chocolate. It looks incredibly soft and inviting. You walk over the chair and sit down. Sinking deep into the cushions, the leather creaks softly as it adjusts to your weight. The chair embraces you, supporting your back, your arms, your head. You lift your feet onto a matching ottoman and let out a long, slow sigh. You're perfectly comfortable, perfectly warm, perfectly safe. You look around the room. The walls are lined with bookshelves filled with old, hardbound books, their spines faded and gold lettering peeling. There's a small wooden table next to you with a lamp that is turned off. The only light comes from the fire, casting long dancing shadows on the walls and ceiling. You watch the shadows move, growing and shrinking, stretching and fading. A silent puppet show just for you. In the corner of the room stands a tall grandfather clock. It is made of dark polished cherry with a brass pendulum that swings back and forth, catching the light of the fire with every pass. You focus on the sound of the clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. It is a slow, steady rhythm, slower than your heartbeat, slower than your breathing. It measures the passing time, but here in this room, time feels irrelevant. The seconds stretch out into minutes, the minutes into hours. You watch the pendulum swing, left, right, left, right. Your eyes follow in motion back and forth. Your eyelids feel heavy again, so very heavy. The warmth of the fire is seeping into your bones, relaxing every muscle, every tendon, every nerve. You feel a tingling sensation in your fingers and toes, a warm, pleasant buzzing that spreads up your limbs. You are melting into the chair, becoming one with the leather and the wood. The fire is dying down now. The flames are smaller, the orange turning to a deep glowing red. The room is getting darker. The shadows are merging into a single soft darkness that fills the corners and creeps toward the center of the room. You're not afraid of the dark. The dark is your friend. It is a soft velvet curtain being drawn across the world, shutting out the light, shutting out the noise, creating a cocoon of silence. You stare at the glowing embers in the fireplace, pulsing slowly with a faint inner light, breathing with the fire, in and out, fading and glowing, fading and glowing. Your eyes are closing now. Just a tiny slit remains open, watching the last flicker of the flame. The clock continues its steady beat. Tick-tock, tick-tock, a metronome for your sleep, guiding you down, deeper and deeper, down a long spiral staircase into the depths of your own mind. Each step down is a step into relaxation. 10, 9, 8. You're going deeper. 7, 6, 5. The room is fading away. 4, 3, 2. The fire is gone. 1. You're floating in a warm, dark void, weightless, formless, timeless. There is nothing here but peace, infinite and eternal peace. You are safe. You are loved. You are resting deeply and completely. Nothing can disturb you. Nothing can reach you. You are far away in the land of dreams, floating on a cloud of silence, drifting, drifting, drifting. You are floating in that warm, dark void, suspended in a state of perfect weightlessness, where time has no meaning. You feel a gentle current catching you, a slow, invisible river of air that carries you softly forward, moving you away from the cabin and the fire and the chair, lifting you higher and higher until you're drifting above the world, You look down and see the landscape changing below you, the colors shifting from the dark browns and greens of the forest to a pure, brilliant white. You are floating over a mountain range in the dead of winter. The peaks are jagged and high, reaching up towards you like frozen waves in a white sea. Everything is covered in a thick blanket of snow, a layer of pristine white powder that sparkles in the pale light of the dawn. The sun is just beginning to crest over the horizon, casting long blue shadows across the valleys. The light is cool and crisp, illuminating the millions of ice crystals on the surface of the snow. You glide over the mountains, silently, a ghost in the sky, observing the stillness at a high altitude. There is no wind up here, no sound of animals, no movement, just the rock and the ice and the snow, standing still as they have for eons. You feel a sense of immense calm looking at this frozen world. It is a world at rest, a world in hibernation, sleeping under its cold white blanket. You drift lower now, descending slowly into a deep valley carved by glaciers long ago. The sides of the valley are steep and covered in evergreen trees. The pines are heavy with snow, their branches bowing down under the weight, looking like white statues standing in solemn rows. You float between the trees, weaving to the silent forest. You can smell the scent of pine needles and cold, clean air. It is a sharp, invigorating scent that makes you feel alive and peaceful at the same time. Below you is a river, but it is not flowing, it is frozen solid. A ribbon of white ice winding its way through the valley floor. The surface of the river is smooth and flat, dusted with a fine layer of snow. You follow the path of the river, drifting just a few feet above the ice, watching the patterns in the snow, the tiny drifts created by the wind, the tracks of small animal that cross the ice in the night, a rabbit perhaps, or a fox, leaving a temporary mark on this permanent landscape. You continue to follow the frozen river until the valley opens up into a wide, flat plain. Here the snow is unbroken, a vast sheet of white, stretching out to the horizon. In the distance you see a small village. The houses are small and huddled together against the cold. Their roofs are piled high with snow, looking like gingerbread houses with white frosting. Smoke curls gently from the chimneys, rising straight up into the still air. The village is asleep. The windows are dark. The streets are empty. You float over the village, looking down at the sleeping houses, imagining the people inside, warm in their beds, buried under thick quilts, dreaming their own dreams. You feel a sense of connection to them, a shared humanity. All of us sleeping, all of us dreaming, all of us seeking rest. You pass over a small church with a tall steeple. The bell in the tower is silent, covered in a layer of frost. You pass over a schoolhouse, empty and quiet, waiting for the laughter of children that is hours away. You leave the village behind and continue drifting across the snowy plain. The sun is rising higher now, turning the snow from blue to a blinding white. The light is warm on your face, balancing the cold of the scene below. You feel a sense of warmth spreading through your body, a golden glow that starts in your chest and radiates outwards to your fingertips and toes. You are filled with light, filled with warmth, filled with peace. The landscape begins to change again, the snow thinning out, revealing patches of brown earth and dry grass, the white giving way to the muted colors of winter dormancy. You see a fence line running parallel to your path, old wooden posts connected by rusted barbed wire, a boundary that marks nothing but the vastness of the land. A small bird sits on one of the fence posts, its feathers fluffed up against the cold. It watches you pass with black bead-like eyes, a silent witness to your journey. You drift onwards, the ground rising and falling in gentle swells, like the breathing of the earth itself, up and down, a soothing rhythm that lulls you deeper into relaxation. You see a patch of fog ahead, a bank of white mist rolling across the fields. Thick and opaque, you drift into fog and the world disappears. You're surrounded by whiteness, a soft cottony void that dampens all sound and obscures all sight. You are flying blind, but you are not afraid. You trust the current of air to carry you safely. You feel the moisture of the fog on your skin, cool and refreshing. You breathe in the damp air, feeling it hydrate your lungs. You are suspended in the cloud, floating in a world of white, with no up and no down, just existence, just being. The fog begins to lift, thinning out into wisps of vapor that cling to the ground, revealing a new scene below. You are approaching the coast now, the land ending abruptly a line of high cliffs that drop down to the sea. You fly over the edge of the cliffs and look down at the water below. It is a deep dark blue, churning slowly against the rocks. Waves rolling in from the open ocean, long lines of white foam crashing against the shore. You can hear the sound of the ocean now, a low, distant roar that grows louder as you descend. It is a powerful sound, the heartbeat of the planet, constant and rhythmic. Crash and retreat. Crash and retreat. You drift down towards the beach, landing softly on the sand. The sand is cold and firm, packed hard by the tide. You start to walk along the water's edge, staying just out of reach of the waves, listening to the water sucking at the sand as it pulls back, a hissing sound of millions of grains of sand rolling over each other. The air here smells of salt and seaweed, a briny scent that opens your sinuses. The wind is blowing off the water, cold and fresh, tangling your hair, blowing away any last remaining thoughts. You walk for miles down the empty beach, leaving no footprints on the hard sand, just a solitary figure moving to mist. You find a piece of driftwood, smooth and gray, bleached by the sun and the salt. You run your hand over the wood, feeling its texture, smooth as bone, shaped by the elements. You sit down on the driftwood and look out at the horizon, where the gray sea meets the gray sky, a seamless line of infinity. You watch the waves rolling in, counting them: 1 wave, 2 waves, 3 waves. Each one unique yet exactly the same, rising, curling, breaking, crashing, spreading, retreating. A cycle that's continued for billions of years and will continue for billions more. It makes your own worries feel small and insignificant, dissolved in the vastness of the ocean. You close your eyes and listen to the roar, letting it fill your head, washing away the silence of the snow, replacing it with the white noise of the sea, a wall of sound that blocks out everything else. You are safe here on the beach, anchored by the driftwood, watched over by the gray sky, lulled by the ocean. You feel yourself drifting again, not flying this time, but sinking into the sound, sinking into the sand, sinking into a deep, heavy sleep that pulls at you with the force of the tide, pulling you out, pulling you down, into the deep, into the dark, into the quiet. You listen to the rhythm of the waves for a few moments longer before slowly standing up from the driftwood. Your muscles feel loose and heavy as you turn your back to gray ocean and look toward the land. There's a line of sand dunes rising up like small hills covered in tall, pale dune grass. The grass is dry and brittle, swaying in the wind, making a soft scratching sound as the blades rub against each other. You walk toward the dunes, moving slowly through the soft sand which shifts under, your feet requiring a slow, deliberate pace. You find a narrow path that cuts through the dunes. The path is covered in crushed white shells that have been bleached by the sun. They crunch softly under your shoes with every step. CRRR and change. CRRR and change. A satisfying sound that marks your progress. You walk between the mounds of sand, feeling the wind die down slightly as the dunes protect you. The air is still salty, but it smells of dry grass and sand now. Ahead of you, standing tall against the gray sky, is a lighthouse. It is a simple white tower made of brick and painted a stark, clean white. It stands alone on a rocky point overlooking the sea, a solitary guardian of the coast. You walk towards it, watching the tower grow larger as you approach. You can see the iron railing around the top and the glass of the lantern room, reflecting the dull light of the day. You reach the base of the lighthouse, where there is a heavy iron door painted a deep forest green. The paint is thick and glossy. You reach out and turn the handle. The door swings open on well-oiled hinges, making no sound at all. You step inside the tower, and the door closes behind you with a solid dull thud, shutting out the sound of the wind and the sea. Inside the lighthouse, it is cool and silent. The air smells of stone and iron and a faint hint of oil. You are in a round room at the base of the tower. The walls are thick brick, painted white. In the center of the room is a black iron spiral staircase that winds its way up toward the top, rising in a perfect corkscrew shape. You place your hand on the smooth cold metal of the railing and begin to climb. The steps are made of iron grating, and they ring softly with each footfall, clang, 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 a metallic rhythm that echoes in the tall, hollow space. You climb slowly round and round, turning in a continuous circle. Seeing the white brick walls pass by you, there are small windows every few turns, narrow slits in the brick that let in shafts of gray light. You pass one window and see the dunes below. You climb higher and pass another window and see the tops of the dunes. You climb higher still and pass a third window, seeing the gray ocean stretching out to the horizon. Round and round you go, a slow, steady ascent. You're not out of breath. You are moving with a calm energy, lifting one leg then the other, feeling the repetition of the movement lulling you into a trance. The spiral seems endless, but it is not frightening. It is a structured path, a defined journey with a clear destination. You count the steps as you go: 50, 51, 52. The numbers flowing through your mind like water. You reach the top of the stairs and step onto a small metal landing. There's a ladder here leading up to a trapdoor. You climb the ladder and push the door open, emerging into the lantern room. This is the heart of the lighthouse, a room made entirely of glass panes held in place by a brass frame. In the center of the room is the great lens, a massive structure of cut glass prisms arranged in concentric circles. It looks like a giant jewel, beautiful and complex. The lens is rotating slowly, driven by a silent clockwork mechanism. Smooth and precise, you watch it spin, heavy and grand, catching the weak daylight and refracting it into rainbows on the floor. The smell here is stronger, the scent of polished brass and machine oil, a clean industrial smell. You walk over the glass wall and look out. You are high above the world now, looking down at the beach where you walked, looking down at the driftwood, looking down at the ocean. The waves look small from up here, tiny ripples on a pond. The sound of the sea is just a faint murmur. You feel completely detached from the earth, floating in this glass room in the sky. You watch the horizon. The line where the gray sea meets the gray sky is blurring as a fog bank begins to roll in from the ocean. You watch the fog approach, a wall of white silence, moving steadily toward the land. It swallows the sea, then it swallows the beach, then it swallows the dunes, moving closer and closer until it wraps around the lighthouse itself. The world outside the glass turns completely white. You are alone in the cloud, suspended in the mist. The light from the lens cuts through the fog, a strong beam of yellow light sweeping through the whiteness. You watch the beam. It rotates with steady rhythm. Flash, darkness, flash, darkness, flash, darkness. It is a hypnotic pulse, a visual lullaby. You lean against the brass railing and watch the light, losing yourself in the pattern. Your eyes follow the beam as it sweeps around, again and again, predictable and soothing. You feel a deep sense of drowsiness coming over you, the height, the silence, the rotating light. It all combines to make your eyelids feel incredibly heavy. You turn away from the glass and see a small bench against the back wall of the lantern room. It is a simple wooden bench, covered with a thick wool cushion. You walk over to it and lie down, curling up on the soft wool. The bench is perfectly sized for you, a cozy nest in the top of the tower. You close your eyes and listen to the soft whirring of the lens rotation, a gentle hum that is almost imperceptible. It vibrates slightly through the floor and into the bench, a gentle massage for your tired body. You are safe in the lighthouse, protected by the thick glass, hidden by the fog, watched over by the light. You let your mind drift, following the spiral of the stairs back down in your imagination, round and round, down into the earth, grounding you, anchoring you. But your body stays up here, floating in the white mist, comfortable and warm. The light sweeps over you, a gentle warmth that passes. Every few seconds, warm, cool, marking the passage of time as you drift deeper and deeper. The sound of the ocean has faded completely. The sound of the wind has stopped. There's only the hum of the light and the slow beat of your own heart. You are sinking into the cushion, sinking into the floor, sinking into the tower. The lighthouse is a solid rock, and you are part of it, unmoving and still. You feel the sleep rising up to meet you, a dark tide of relaxation washing over your feet, your legs, your waist, your chest, cover you completely, submerging you in rest. You are ready to let go, ready to stop watching, ready to stop listening, ready to just be in the quiet, in the dark, in the tower, asleep. The white fog that wraps around the lighthouse begins to thin slightly, swirling in slow, lazy spirals that dissipate into cool air. You feel yourself drifting away from the bench and the lantern room, floating gently through the glass as if it were made of mist, moving out into the open sky once again. You are weightless and free, carried by a soft breeze that glides over the landscape. The world below you is changing. The sandy dunes and the gray ocean are fading away, replaced by rolling hills of vibrant green. You are floating over an ancient countryside where the grass is thick and lush, marked by low stone walls covered in ivy. You drift lower and lower until your feet touch down softly on a gravel path. The gravel is small and gray, crunching quietly under your shoes. You are standing at the entrance to a large walled garden. The walls are made of old red brick that has crumbled slightly in places, revealing the history of the structure. Moss grows in the cracks of the mortar, adding soft patches of green to the red. There's a heavy wooden gate standing slightly ajar. You push it open, and it swings silently on well-oiled hinges. You step inside, and the world becomes even quieter. The walls block out the wind and the noise of the outside world, creating a sanctuary of stillness. You are in a vast botanical garden filled with rows and rows of plants. The air here is sweet and heavy with the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers. You walk slowly down the central path, which is lined with perfectly trimmed hedges of boxwood, their leaves small and glossy, reflecting the soft light of the afternoon. You reach out and run your hand along the top of the hedge, feeling the dense, springy resistance of the leaves. It is a satisfying texture, cool and living. You continue walking, observing the flowers. There are beds of roses in shades of pale pink and cream, their petals soft as velvet. Standing still in the quiet air, you stop to look at a single rose, noticing the intricate spiral of its petals, how they fold over one another in a perfect geometric pattern, unfolding slowly over days and weeks, a silent, slow explosion of beauty. You leave the roses and walk toward a large structure at the end of the path. It is a Victorian glass house, a massive cathedral of glass and white ironwork. You walk up the stone steps and open the door. A wave of warm, humid air washes over you. Smelling of tropical soil and green leaves and water, you step inside and close the door. The air is thick and comforting, like a warm embrace. The glass house is filled with exotic plants, giant ferns with fronds that unfurl like fiddleheads, towering palms that reach up towards the glass roof, and orchids hanging from baskets with roots dangling in the air. You walk down the narrow brick aisle between the wooden benches. The bricks are damp and uneven, worn smooth by years of footsteps. You look at the clay pots lined up on the benches. Hundreds of terracotta, pots in varying sizes, each one holding a unique life. You look at the soil in the pots, dark and rich, holding moisture and nutrients, feeding the roots that grow silently in the dark. You imagine the roots stretching out white and thread-like, exploring the soil, drinking the water, anchoring the plant, a hidden world of activity beneath the surface. You hear a soft dripping sound. Somewhere in the distance, the tap has been left dripping, drip, drip, drip. The sound echoes faintly in the large glass space. It is a rhythmic sound, steady and reliable. You find the source, a small stone basin filled with water where a brass tap releases a single drop every few seconds. You watch the drop fall at the lip of the tap, growing heavy and round, catching the light, then falling, plip, hitting the surface of the water in the basin, sending out tiny ripples. You watch the cycle for a long time. Drop, fall, plip, ripple, drop, fall, plip, ripple. It is mesmerizing, almost putting you to sleep, right there standing up. But you turn away and walk deeper into the glass house. The light here is diffused by the whitewash on the glass panes, creating a soft, milky glow that eliminates all harsh shadows. Everything is soft. Everything is gentle. You find a white wrought iron bench sitting under the canopy of a large fig tree. The leaves of the fig are broad and lobe, casting a dappled shade on the bench. You sit down. The metal is cool at first, but quickly warms to your touch. You lean back and look up at the glass roof. You can see that it has begun to rain again outside, a gentle shower that taps softly against the glass panes. Tip-tap, tip-tap. Thousands of tiny impacts. It sounds different here than it did on the lake. Here it is a sharper sound, a light musical percussion on the glass. You watch the water droplets running down the slope of the roof, joining together to form small streams, tracing unpredictable paths down the panes. You pick one droplet and follow it with your eyes, watching it slide down, stop for a moment, then merge with another and slide faster, down and down until it hits the iron frame and disappears. You pick another drop and follow it, and another and another. It is a simple game, a game with no winners and no losers, just observation, just focus. The sound of the rain on the glass creates a barrier of sound that wraps around you, separating you from everything else. Inside here it is warm and green and alive. Outside it is cool and gray and wet. You feel incredibly cozy, safe in your glass bubble, surrounded by the silent breathing of the plants. The plants are exhaling oxygen, fresh and clean. You take a deep breath in, filling your lungs with this pure air, tasting the greenness, tasting the life. You exhale slowly, letting your shoulders drop, letting your hands rest loose in your lap. The humidity in the air softens your skin, relaxes your muscles, makes your eyelids feel heavy and thick. You listen to the drip of the tap in the distance, mixing with the tap of the rain overhead. A complex, layered rhythm that weaves a spell of sleepiness around you. Your head begins to nod forward slightly. Then you catch yourself. Then it nods again, deeper this time. Gravity is pulling you down. The fig tree above you seems to be sheltering you, its large leaves hanging down like protective hands, blocking out the light, making it darker, more intimate. You are ready to rest here, among the ferns and the moss and the warm, humid air. You let your eyes close, shutting out the rows of pots, shutting out the green leaves, shutting out the glass roof, leaving only the sound, the tap, tap, tap of the rain, the drip, drip, drip of the water, the slow, steady beat of your heart. You are sinking into the bench, sinking into the quiet, sinking into the peace of the garden, drifting away, floating on the sound of the rain, deeper and deeper, into the warm, dark earth, into the roots, into the silence. You slowly rise from the white iron bench in the glass house, leaving the sound of the gentle rain tapping against the glass behind you. You feel light and airy as you walk back down the brick aisle, passing the rows of silent terracotta pots and the sleeping ferns. You reach the heavy wooden door and push it open, stepping out into a corridor that connects the garden to a large stone building. The corridor is cool and dimly lit, with a floor of black and white checkered tiles that stretch out. Before you like a giant chessboard, you walk down the center of the corridor, listening to the soft echo of your footsteps bouncing off the stone walls. Clip-clop, clip-clop, a steady rhythmic sound that emphasizes the emptiness of space. The air here is dry and smells of old stone and floor wax, a clean institutional scent that clears your mind. You reach the end of the corridor and stand before a pair of tall oak doors with brass handles that are tarnished with age. You reach out and turn, the handle feeling the heavy mechanism disengage with a solid click. You push the doors open and step into a vast library. But it is not a modern library. It is an archive of ancient maps and charts. The room is cavernous with a high vaulted ceiling that disappears into the shadows above. The walls are lined from floor to ceiling with wooden shelves filled with rolled parchments and leather-bound atlases. The only light comes from small brass lamps with green glass shades sitting on long wooden tables. The light is soft and cool on the tables, leaving the rest of the room in a comfortable gloom. You walk slowly across the thick oriental rug that covers the center of the floor. The wool is deep and soft, muffling your steps completely. Silence reigns here, a heavy, profound silence that feels like a physical weight pressing down on your shoulders, pushing you down towards relaxation. You walk towards one of the tall shelves and run your finger along the spines of the atlases, feeling the texture of the cracked leather and the raised ridges of the binding. You pull one of the books from the shelf. It is heavy and large. You carry over one of the tables and lay it down on the smooth wood. You open the cover and the book creaks stiffly. The pages are thick and creamy, made of heavy cotton paper that smells of vanilla and almond. You turn the pages slowly, one by one, watching the dust motes dance in the light of the green lamp. You see maps of countries that no longer exist, borders that have shifted and changed over centuries. You see lines representing rivers and mountains drawn with meticulous black ink. You trace the line of a river with your finger, following its winding path from the mountains to the sea, imagining the water flowing. Imagine the time it took to draw this line, the hand that held the pen, the patience required, the slow, deliberate work of cartography. You turn another page and see a chart of the night sky, black ink dotted with white. Stars, constellations connected by faint lines. You stare at the star chart, losing yourself in the pattern of the dots, the seemingly random arrangement that humans have tried to organize into shapes and stories. You feel a deep sense of insignificance looking at the stars, even on paper, a comforting feeling that your problems are tiny specks in the vast universe. You close the book slowly, the heavy cover falling shut with a soft thud that disturbs the silence for a brief moment before the quiet rushes back in to fill the void. You leave the table and walk toward the back of the room where a large velvet curtain hangs over a tall window. You pull the curtain back just an inch and look out. It is nighttime now outside. The rain has stopped and the moon is shining on a quiet city street below. The streetlights are glowing with a warm sodium orange light, reflecting in the puddles on the pavement. You watch a single car drive slowly down the street, its tires hissing on the wet asphalt, its red taillights fading into the distance, leaving the street empty once more. You let the curtain fall back into place, shutting out the world, shutting out the street. You turn back to the room and see a large wingback chair in the corner. It is upholstered in deep burgundy velvet that looks crushed and soft. You walk over to the chair and sit down. The velvet is warm and smooth against your skin. The chair is high-backed and wraps around you, blocking your peripheral vision so you can only see the dim room in front of you. You rest your head against the back of the chair and look at the rows of shelves again, passing through sleeping towns, moving relentlessly toward the destination of pure rest. You are a passenger on this journey to sleep. You have your ticket. You have your seat. You are on the right track. There is no need to worry about anything. The engineer is driving. The conductor is watching. You can just let go of the day, let go of the thoughts, let go of the control. The train is carrying you, carrying your heavy body, carrying your heavy mind, taking you to a place of dreams. The rhythm slows down slightly as the train begins to climb a long, gentle hill. The engine works a little harder, a deep thrumming sound. The wheels click a little slower, clack, 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 clack. The slower pace pulls you deeper down, dragging your consciousness down with it, down into the velvet, down into the warmth, down into the dark. You are drifting, drifting, drifting. The whistle blows one last time, soft and far away, a whisper in the night, and then there's only the rhythm and the warmth and the sleep. The train begins to slow its rhythm, the clacking of the wheels spacing out further and further until the motion becomes a gentle gliding sensation. The engine gives a long, soft sigh of escaping steam that wraps around the carriage in a white cloud. The brakes engage with a low, quiet squeal, and the train comes to a complete and final halt. You feel a cessation of movement in your body, a sudden stillness that is heavy and grounding. You slide the door of your compartment open and step out into the corridor, which is silent now without the rumble of the tracks. You walked into the car and stepped down the metal stairs onto a wooden platform. The air here is cold and thin, much colder than before, smelling of clean ice and pine resin. You are high in the mountains at a small remote station that serves only a single lodge. The platform is empty and dimly lit by a few iron lanterns hanging from posts, the light flickering gently in the night breeze. You watch as the train begins to move again, pulling away slowly, disappearing into the tunnel of darkness, leaving you alone in the quiet. You turn and see a path leading away from the station toward a large timber building nestled against the side of the mountain. Snow has begun to fall again. Huge fluffy flakes that drift straight down in the still air, landing on your coat and melting instantly. You walk up the path hearing the soft crunch of fresh snow under your boots. The lodge is ahead of you, glowing with warmth, smoke rising from its massive stone chimneys. You reach the heavy front door made of thick rough-hewn oak and iron straps. You push it open and step inside. The warmth hits you like a physical wall, thick and smelling of wood smoke and roasting chestnuts. You are in the great room of the lodge. The ceiling is high and vaulted, supported by giant wooden beams that are dark with age. A fire is roaring in a fireplace, so large you can stand inside it, the flames licking at logs the size of a tree. Trunks. The floor is made of polished slate covered in thick fur rugs that look inviting and soft. There is no one else here. The room is yours, a private sanctuary in the wilderness. You walk across the stone floor, your footsteps silent on the rugs. You take off your heavy coat and drape it over a wooden rack, feeling the heat of the room seeping into your cold clothes. You walk over to a massive window that looks out over the valley. The glass is thick and cold to the touch. Outside you can see nothing but the falling snow illuminated by the light from the lodge, a curtain of white lace falling endlessly from the sky, covering the trees, covering the mountains, covering the world in silence. You turn back the room and see a large sofa facing the fire. It is deep and piled high with wool blankets and pillows in shades of cream and gray. You walk over to it and sit down. The cushions are incredibly soft. You sink down into them, feeling the support on your back and legs. You pull one of the wool blankets over your lap. It is heavy and warm, instantly comforting. You stare into the fire, watching the embers glow and pulse, deep orange and red. The heart of the room. You listen to crackle of the wood, a sharp snap followed by a long hiss. It is a conversation between the fire and the wood, ancient and simple. You feel your eyes tracing the patterns in the flames, seeing shapes that form and dissolve in an instant. Mountains and rivers and cities of fire, rising and falling. You feel a deep thirst and notice a small ceramic pot on a table next to you. Steam is rising from the spout. You pour a cup of tea. The liquid is amber and clear, smelling of chamomile and honey. You take a sip, the warmth spreading down your throat, warming you from the inside out. It is soothing and sweet, relaxing your throat, your chest, your stomach. You set the cup down and lean your head back against the cushions, staring up at the dark wooden beams of the ceiling, following the grain of the wood, the knots and the cracks, lines of history written in the timber. You feel safe here, protected from the cold, protected from the snow, protected from the night. The lodge is a fortress of peace, solid and immovable. You close your eyes for a moment and listen to the silence of the room. Beneath the sound of fire, there is a deeper silence. The silence of the mountain, a heavy stillness that presses against the windows, dampening all thought. You feel your breathing, slowing down to match the stillness. In and out, slow and deep. The air is warm and dry, easy to breathe. You decide to move to the bedroom. You stand up slowly, your body feeling loose and heavy, and walk toward a heavy wooden door at the side of the room. You open it and enter a smaller room. This is the sleeping chamber. It is dominated by a massive four-poster bed made of raw pine logs. The mattress is thick and high, covered in crisp white sheets, and a duvet that looks like a cloud. There is a smaller fireplace in this room with a small fire burning quietly, casting a soft, dancing light on the log walls. You walk to bed and pull back the duvet. The sheets are cool and smooth, inviting you in. You lie down and pull the covers up to your chin. The weight of the duvet is comforting, pressing you down into the mattress. You wiggle your toes, finding a warm spot. You let your head sink into the pillow, which is soft and fluffy, supporting your neck perfectly. You look at the ceiling, watching the shadows from the fire flicker and dance. Gentle movements that hypnotic and slow. You listen to the wind outside, a low moaning sound as it sweeps around the corners of the lodge. It sounds far away, a distant reminder of the cold that cannot reach you here. You are warm. You are safe. You are comfortable. You feel the sleep gathering in the corners of your mind, like the snow gathering in the corners of the window, soft and white and silent, piling up layer upon layer, covering your thoughts, covering your memories, covering your day, smoothing everything out into a flat white plane of nothingness. Your eyelids are too heavy to keep open. They flutter and close, sealing you in the dark. But it is a warm dark, a friendly dark. You are drifting on a raft of comfort, floating down a river of sleep. The current is slow and gentle, carrying you effortlessly. You have no paddle. You need no paddle. You just float round the bends under the trees into the mist, drifting, drifting, drifting. The fire pops softly one last time, a final note in the song of night. And then there's only the silence and the warmth and the heavy, deep sleep that wraps you in its arms, holding you tight, keeping you safe until the morning comes. Sleep now, sleep now, sleep. The image of the snowy lodge slowly dissolves into a soft white mist that swirls and changes color, turning from cool blue to a warm golden yellow. The air around you shifts from the crisp cold of the mountains to the gentle humidity of a late summer afternoon. You feel a gentle rocking motion beneath you, different from the train, but just as soothing. You find yourself reclining in the stern of a small wooden rowboat that is drifting lazily down a narrow canal. The water is a deep glossy green, reflecting the leaves of the ancient willow trees that line the banks. The sun is low in the sky, casting long, lazy shadows across the water. The light is honey-colored and thick, making everything look soft and dreamlike. You run your hand along the gunwale of the boat, feeling the smooth varnish would warm by the sun. It is a comforting texture, smooth and solid. You look ahead and see the canal stretching out before you, a ribbon of calm water, winding its way through a quiet countryside there. Is no sound of engines here, only the soft lap of the water against the hull. Lap, 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 a gentle rhythmic kissing sound. You look at the banks of the canal. They are lined with tall green reeds that rustle softly in the faint breeze. Dragonflies dart among the reeds, their iridescent wings flashing in the sunlight like tiny jewels. Zip, zip, hovering and darting. Silent and fast, you pass by an old stone bridge, its arch high and rounded, reflecting perfectly in the water below, creating a complete circle of stone and shadow. The boat drifts under the bridge, and for a moment you are in a cool, dark shade. The air drops a few degrees, and the sounds echo slightly against the damp stone. Then you emerge back into the warm sunlight, feeling the heat return to your skin like a gentle caress. You look up and see the swallows diving and swooping high above, chasing insects in the blue sky. They are distant specks of energy in a world that is otherwise slow and still. You drift past a small cottage sitting right on the water's edge. It has a thatched roof and walls of whitewashed stone. A garden spills over the bank filled with hollyhocks and lavender. The scent of the lavender drifts across the water, reaching you in the boat, a sweet herbal smell that relaxes your mind. You see a cat sleeping on the garden wall. A ball of orange for perfectly still, soaking up the warmth. It opens one green eye to watch you pass, then closes it again uninterested, returning to its deep feline. Sleep. You feel a kinship with that cat, a shared understanding of the importance of doing nothing. Simply being, simply resting. The canal widens slightly and the current slows down even more. The boat is barely moving now, just turning slowly in the water, drifting aimlessly. You look down into the water and see the weeds swaying below the surface, long green ribbons dancing in the slow current. Fish swim lazily among the stems, dark shadows moving in the deep. You dip your fingers into the water. It is cool and refreshing. You drag your hand through it, creating a small wake that ripples out behind you. The sensation of the water rushing through your fingers is pleasant and grounding. You pull your hand out and watch the drops fall back in the canal. Plip, 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 merging back with the hole. You lean back against the cushions in the boat. They are covered in a faded floral fabric that smells of sunshine and cotton. You look up at the sky again, watching a single white cloud, drifting slowly from left to right. It is changing shape as it moves, stretching out, thinning, fading, disappearing into the blue, just like your thoughts, stretching, thinning, fading, disappearing. The boat bumps gently against a lily pad, a large flat green disc floating on the surface. A small green frog sits on the lily pad. It does not move as you bump it. It sits like a statue, waiting, patient still. You drift on, leaving the frog behind, leaving the cottage behind, leaving the bridge behind, moving deeper into the quiet afternoon. The sun is getting lower now, the light turning a deeper shade of orange, the shadows lengthening, stretching across the water, cooling the air. The world is preparing for evening. The birds are quieting down. The wind is dying away. Everything is slowing down, catching the rhythm of the sunset. You feel your eyelids growing heavy again. The sunlight on your face is like a heavy, warm towel pressing down on your eyes, urging them to close. You let them droop, seeing the world through a haze of eyelashes, the green of the water merging with the blue of the sky, a soft blur of colors. You are safe in this boat. It is your cradle. The water is rocking you. The sun is warming you. You have nowhere to go, no arrival time. Just a drifting, just a floating. You are part of the water now, fluid and relaxed, moving with the flow, offering no resistance. Simply go where the current takes you, down the canal, under the willows, into the shade, into the cool, into the quiet. Your breathing is slow and steady, matching the slow pulse of the water, in and out, drifting and floating. The boat turns slowly round and round, a gentle spin that makes the world revolve around you. You are the center of this quiet universe, the point of stillness in a turning world. You let go of the oars, let go of the boat, let go of the water, let go of the sky. You are just a consciousness floating in the warm light, weightless and free, sinking deeper into the cushions, sinking deeper into the boat, sinking deeper into the afternoon. The sun dips below the horizon. The light fades to a soft purple twilight. The air cools. The first star appears, sparkling in the darkening sky. A tiny beacon of sleep. You watch it twinkle, on and off, hypnotic and steady, guiding you down, guiding you home, into the harbor of sleep, into the dock of dreams. You tie your boat to the post of silence, secure and safe, and you rest, finally rest. The stars above the canal begin to blur as the scene shifts gently like a camera going out of focus. The cool air of the water is replaced by a warm, dry air that smells of sagebrush and heated asphalt. You find yourself sitting in the driver's seat of a large, comfortable car. The leather of the seat is soft and worn, molding perfectly to your back. You're driving down a long, straight highway in the American desert at night. There are no other cars on the road, just you and the vast open space. The headlights cut a bright white tunnel through the darkness, illuminating the yellow dashed line in the center of the road. You watch the lines pass by. Zip, zip, zip. A mesmerizing rhythm that marks the miles. The car is heavy and smooth, floating over the road with suspension that absorbs every bump. The steering wheel is thin and hard under your hands. You hold it lightly, guiding the car with barely a touch. The dashboard is lit with a soft green glow. The dials and gauges steady and reassuring. The speedometer needle sits perfectly still. The fuel gauge is full. The engine temperature is normal. Everything is functioning perfectly. Everything is under control. You listen to the sound of the tires on the pavement. A high-pitched hum that changes pitch slightly as the road surface changes. Hum. It is a white noise that fills the cabin, blocking out all other thoughts. The air conditioning is blowing a gentle stream of cool air on your face, keeping you alert enough to. Dry, but relaxed enough to dream. You look out the side window and see the silhouette of distant mountains against the starry sky. There are jagged black shapes that look like sleeping giants. The moon is rising over the mountains, a sliver of silver that hangs low and heavy. You pass a road sign, green and reflective, reading names of towns that are miles away: Cactus Springs, Sand Creek, names that sound dry and quiet. You imagine these towns, sleeping in the desert, dust blowing through the empty streets, lights off in the diners, silence in the gas stations. You're just passing through, a traveler in the night, leaving no trace. The road begins to curve gently to the left, a long, slow arc that tilts the car slightly. You lean into the curve, feeling the centrifugal force. Then the road straightens out again, and you are back on the arrow straight path. You reach out and turn on the radio, keeping the volume very low, searching for a signal. You find a station playing classical music, a slow cello solo that matches the mood of the night. The deep, rich notes of cello fill the car, vibrating in the door panels, adding a soundtrack to your journey. The music is sad and beautiful, slow and deliberate, bow across strings, resonance and wood. You listen to music and watch the yellow lines, music and lines, blending together into a single sensory experience. You see a pair of headlights in the distance, miles ahead, coming towards you, tiny pinpricks of light that grows slowly larger. You watch them approach, getting brighter and brighter, until they swoosh past you in a split second, a sudden burst of wind and light. And then they are gone, fading into red taillights in your rear-view mirror, leaving you alone again. The isolation is not lonely, it is liberating. You are in your own private capsule, moving through time and space, sealed off from the world. You decide to pull over at a scenic overlook. You see the sign ahead and slow the car down, the engine pitch dropping, the tires quieting. You turn off the highway onto a gravel patch, the stones crunching loudly under the heavy tires. Crunch, crunch, crunch. You bring the car to a stop and put in park. You turn off the headlights and the world goes pitch black. You turn off the engine and the silence rushes in to fill the space. Sudden and absolute. You sit in the dark car for a moment, listening to the engine ticking as it cools. Tick, tick, tick. Expanding metal contracting the cool night air. You open the door and step out. The desert air is cold and clear, smelling of dust and dry earth. You look up at the sky. It is a dome of stars, brighter and clearer than you've ever seen. The Milky Way stretches across the center, a river of diamond dust. You feel small standing there on the edge of the highway, a tiny speck in the universe. You walk over to a low stone wall at the edge of the overlook and look down below. You as a valley floor, and far in the distance is a small town. The lights are twinkling like a cluster of fallen stars. Yellow and white and amber, you watch the lights, wondering who lives there, imagining their lives, safe and warm in their homes. You feel a yawn stretching your jaw, wide and deep, filling your lungs with the cold air. You're so tired now. The drive has hypnotized you. The lines and the hum have done their work. You walk back to the car, your footsteps heavy on the gravel. You open the back door this time. The back seat is huge, a bench of plush velvet. You climb in and close the door, shutting out the desert, shutting out the cold. You lie down on the seat, curling your legs up, using your coat as a pillow. The car is still warm from the drive, a residual heat that is cozy and safe. You listen to the wind buffering the car gently, rocking on its springs, a tiny movement that is almost imperceptible. You look out the window at the stars one last time. They are watching over you, silent guardians of the night. Your eyes close, blocking out the stars, blocking out the desert. You are back in the dark, back in the quiet, drifting away on the memory of the road. The yellow lines are still moving in your mind. Zip, 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 but slower now, much slower, leading you down a new road, a road that leads to sleep, a road with no destination, just an endless smooth journey into the velvet black. You are safe, you are warm, you are resting, finally resting. The stars outside the car windows slowly dissolve into tiny points of light reflecting off a polished marble floor. The scent of the desert fades and is replaced by the smell of floor wax and old varnish. You find yourself standing in the center of a grand hallway in a large art museum at night. The museum is closed to the public, and you are the only one there. The space is vast and echoing. The ceiling is high and lost in the shadows. The walls are painted a deep, soothing dove gray. You take a step and your shoe makes a sharp, clear click on the stone floor, a sound that travels down the long corridor and bounces back to you. Click, 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 verifying the emptiness of the space. You begin to walk slowly down the center of the hall, passing beneath tall archways that lead into different galleries. You turn left and enter a room filled with landscape paintings from the 19th century. The frames are heavy in gold, ornate and carved with leaves and vines, shimmering dully in the low light. You walk up to a large canvas and study it. It depicts a quiet valley at sunset, very similar to the one you visited in your mind earlier. Cows are grazing a meadow. The shepherd is resting against a tree. The colors are dark greens and browns and soft fading yellows. The paint is cracked slightly with age, a web of fine lines that adds texture and history to the image. You look at the brushstrokes, tiny deliberate movements of a hand long gone, capturing a moment of peace that has lasted for hundreds of years. You move to the next painting, a seascape with calm water and a single boat. The water is painted with translucent layers of blue and gray, looking wet and deep. You can almost smell the salt air coming from the canvas. You continue walking to the gallery, passing painting after painting, each one a window into a different world, a different time, but all of them silent, all of them still, trapped in their frames, waiting for you to see them. The room is perfectly climate controlled. The air is cool and dry and still, preserving the art and preserving you. You feel a sense of reverence here, a feeling that you must be quiet, you must move slowly, out of respect for the history on the walls. You walk into the next room, which is filled with marble statues, white figures standing on pedestals in the gloom. You walk around them, seeing the smooth curves of the stone, the way the light catches the muscles and the drapery of the carved fabric. You reach out and touch the arm of a statue. The marble is cold and smooth as ice, solid and unyielding, a permanent form in a changing world. You look at the face of the statue, a serene expression calm that has not changed for 2,000 years, eyes that look at nothing, a mouth that never speaks. You feel a kinship with the stillness. You want to be like the statue, still and cool and peaceful, existing without effort. You leave the room of statues and find yourself in a gallery of still life paintings, tables laden with fruit and flowers and dead game, lemons with textured rinds, grapes with a dusty bloom, silver goblets reflecting the light. You look at a painting of half-peeled orange, the zest hanging in a spiral, the white pith exposed. It is so realistic you can taste the citrus. You move to the center of the room where there's a large rectangular bench upholstered in black velvet. You sit down on the bench. The velvet is soft and warm compared to the marble. You lean forward, resting your elbows on your knees, looking at the floor. The tiles are arranged in a geometric pattern, black and white squares interlocking. You trace the lines with your eyes, following the pattern across the room, square after square, a grid of order and logic. It is calming to see such structure, such predictability. You lift your head and look at the far wall where a massive tapestry hangs. It is faded now, the threads worn, depicting a forest scene with unicorns and stags. The fabric absorbed the sound in the room, making it even quieter. You feel a heaviness in your shoulders, a desire to lay down your burden, to stop looking, to stop thinking. You lie down on the bench, stretching your legs out. The velvet supports you. The museum surrounds you. You are a piece of art now, a sleeping figure on a bench, of study and relaxation. You look up at the skylight in the ceiling. It is dark outside, but you can see the faint glow of the city reflecting off the clouds, a muted orange light that filters down into the room, softness upon softness, quiet upon quiet. You listen to the silence of the museum. It is a thick silence composed of thousands of years of history, the silence of the painted forest, the silence of the marble figures, the silence of the woven tapestries, all pressing on you, protecting you, keeping the noise of the modern world at bay. You are safe here in the past, safe in the stillness. You close your eyes and imagine the paintings coming to life, the wind blowing in the painted trees, the water lapping in the painted sea, the shepherd playing a silent flute, a world of dreams surrounding you, holding you, rocking you. Your breathing slows down to match the timeless atmosphere, slow and shallow, barely moving your chest. You're becoming part of the exhibit, frozen in time, frozen in peace. No need to move, no need to leave. The guard is locked. The doors, the lights are dimmed. The world has gone away, leaving only you in the art and the silence. Deep and profound and endless, you drift deeper into the velvet, deeper into the dark, deeper into the sleep that waits for you like a masterpiece. Ready to be experienced, ready to be felt. Sleep now. In the gallery of dreams, sleep. The velvet bench in the museum slowly dissolves beneath you, and the smell of old oil paint fades away, replacing itself with the scent of fresh linen and expensive soap. You are standing at one end of a long hotel corridor in a luxury high-rise building. The hallway stretches out before you, seemingly endless. The floor is covered in a thick plush carpet with a swirling pattern of cream and gold. You take a step and your foot sinks deep into pile. There is absolutely no sound. The carpet absorbs everything. Silence is the only resident here. The walls are covered in a textured beige wallpaper that feels like silk to the touch. Soft sconce lights are spaced even along the walls, casting pools of warm yellow light downwards, creating a rhythm of light and shadow. Light and shadow. You walk slowly down the center of the hall. You're the only guest awake, the only person moving in this sleeping tower. You pass rows of dark mahogany doors, each one closed and locked, each one hiding a quiet room. You look at the brass numbers on the doors, for 02, for 104, for 106, counting them as you pass. The numbers are shiny and polished, reflecting the sconce lights. You imagine the people sleeping behind those doors, wrapped in white sheets, heads on soft pillows, dreaming their city dreams. You feel a sense of privacy and anonymity. You're just a ghost passing through, needing nothing, disturbing nothing. You reach the end of the hall and find room 412. You reach into your pocket and pull out a white key card. You slide into the slot, and a tiny green light blinks once. A soft electronic beep that is barely audible. You push the heavy handle down, and the door swings open with a heavy hydraulic sigh. You step inside and let the door close behind you, the latch clicking softly, sealing you in. The room is cool and dimly lit. The air conditioning is humming a low, steady note. Hum. A white noise that masks the sound of the city outside. You walk across the soft carpet to the window. The curtains are heavy drapes made of thick blackout fabric, currently pulled back to reveal the view. You look out at the city below. It is raining. The streets are slick and black, reflecting the neon signs and the streetlights. The cars are tiny toys moving slowly through the wet grid, their red taillights streaming like ribbons of laser light. You place your hand against the glass. It is cold and damp, vibrating slightly with the wind. You watch a single raindrop hit the glass and slide down, tracing a zigzag path, merging with other drops, distorting the lights of the city behind it. You turn away from the window and look at the bed. It is massive, a king-sized island of white. The sheets are pulled tight, perfectly smooth without a single wrinkle. The duvet is thick and fluffy, piled high with pillows for 5, 6 pillows. Waiting for your head, you walk over to the bedside table and turn on the small lamp. It casts a warm, intimate glow on the crisp white linen. You sit down on the edge of the bed. The mattress is firm but yielding, absorbing your weight. You take off your shoes and place them neatly on the floor. You swing your legs up and slide under the heavy duvet. The sheets are cool against your skin, smooth as satin, refreshing and clean. You pull the covers up to your chin, instantly warming up. The duvet presses down on you, a weighted comfort that makes you feel secure. You reach out and turn off the lamp. The room plunges into darkness, but not total darkness. The city light filters through the sheer inner curtains, creating a soft gray gloom. You lie on your back and look at the ceiling, watching the faint shadows of the rain running down the window projected onto the plaster. Sliding shadows, falling water, a silent movie of the weather. You listen to the hum of the room, the air conditioning, the distant muffled sound of a siren miles away, a reminder that the world is turning while you are stopping. You feel your body sinking into the mattress, your heels, your calves, your hips, your shoulders, all heavy, all relaxed. You are supported completely, held up by the bed. You have no need to hold yourself up, no need to be strong. You can just be soft. You can just be heavy. You close your eyes and the city disappears. The room disappears, leaving you in a comfortable dark space inside your mind. You imagine you are floating on a cloud above the city, a soft white cloud that is drifting slowly over the skyscrapers. You look down and see the buildings like jagged teeth, but you're high above them, safe in the soft mist. The rain is falling around you, but you are dry. The cloud is warm. You drift over the harbor, seeing the dark water and the ships at anchor. Tiny lights on the mast blinking in the mist. You drift over the suburbs, seeing the grids of houses, the dark parks, the sleeping schools. You are a silent observer, a traveler in the sky, drifting with the wind. The wind is gentle, pushing you softly to the west, away from the city, away from the noise, toward the open country, towards the quiet. You feel a deep peace settling in your chest, a slow expansion and contraction with every breath. Your heart is beating slowly. Thud, 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 a slow drum in the quiet night. You are drifting lower now, the cloud descending toward a field of lavender. You can smell the scent rising up to meet you, sweet and floral and calming. The cloud lands softly in the middle of the field, dissolving into a mist that wraps around you. You're lying on the earth now, but it is soft earth, covered in flowers, looking up at the gray sky, feeling the mist on your face. Cool and gentle, you are so tired, so ready to let go. The journey has been long. The museum, the hotel, the cloud, all leading you here, to this moment of absolute stillness. You let your mind go blank, a white screen, no images, no thoughts, just a feeling of heaviness, the feeling of warmth, the feeling of safety. Sleep is washing over you like a slow tide, rising up, covering you, pulling you under, gently, softly, into the deep, into the dark, into the rest. The scent of the lavender field gently drift away, replaced by the crisp, sweet smell of ripening apples and damp fallen leaves. You open your eyes and find yourself sitting on a wide wooden porch swing that hangs in the ceiling of an old farmhouse. The swing is painted a soft, creamy white, and it moves back and forth with a gentle creaking sound. Creak, creak, a rhythmic sound with rubbing against metal hooks. You are wrapped in a heavy flannel blanket with a pattern of red and black squares. It feels rough and warm against your chin. The air is cool and misty, a classic autumn morning in New England. You look out from the porch across a sprawling apple orchard that disappears into the fog. The trees are planted in perfect straight rows, their gnarled branches twisting and turn like the arms of old dancers frozen in time. The leaves are turning colors, shades of burnt orange and mustard yellow and deep crimson. They hang heavy with moisture, dripping softly onto the grass below. Drip, drip, drip. You push off gently with your foot, setting the swing in motion again, rocking yourself back and forth, watching the mist swirl between the tree trunks. You decide to leave the porch and walk into the orchard. You stand up, letting the blanket fall onto the swing. You walk down the wooden steps, your boots making a hollow thud on the boards. You step onto grass which is wet with heavy dew. Your boots leave dark green footprints in the silver frosted lawn. You walk toward the first row of trees. The air smells intensely of apples, a sweet cider scent of fruit that has fallen and broken open on the ground, returning to the earth. You reach up and touch the bark of an apple tree. It is rough and gray, covered in patches of pale green lichen. You look at the apples hanging from the branches, round and red and perfect, heavy with juice, weighed down by their own abundance. You walk slowly down the aisle between the trees, looking left and right, tree after tree, row after row, an endless grid of nature. The fog isolates you here, closing behind you and opening up in front of you, creating a moving bubble of visibility. You're the only person in the world, the only person in this orchard, walking in a quiet morning. You see a spiderweb stretch between two branches. It is covered in tiny droplets of water that look like glass beads, a masterpiece of engineering that will disappear when the sun rises. You stop to admire it. The symmetry, the delicacy, the patience of the spider. You continue walking, your feet crunching softly on the fallen leaves that litter the path. Rustle, crunch, is a satisfying autumn sound. You see an old wooden ladder leaning against a tree, left there by a picker yesterday or perhaps years ago. The wood is gray and weather blending in with the bark. You imagine climbing the ladder, reaching up into the canopy, picking the highest apple, but you are too tired to climb. You are content to stay on the ground, grounded and heavy. You walk until you reach the end of the row where the orchard meets a stone wall. The stones are round and mossy, piled loosely on top of each other, a boundary that marks the edge of the farm. You sit down on the wall. The stone is cold, but you are wearing thick trousers. You look back the way you came. The rows of trees look like tunnels of foliage leading back to the house, which is now just a vague shape in the mist. You listen to the silence of the orchard. It is a living silence, filled with a tiny sound of the damp earth, a leaf falling, a twig snapping, a bird shifting its weight on a branch. You take a deep breath of the cool air. It tastes of frost and sugar, filling your lungs with the essence of season. You feel your heart rate slowing down, matching the slow decay of the autumn leaves, letting go. Just as the trees let go of their leaves, you are letting go of your thoughts, letting them fall away one by one, drifting down the ground to become mulch of the future. You are empty and light, yet heavy and grounded, a paradox of sleep. You decide to walk back toward the house. Moving slowly through the mist, you see a small shed near the main house. The door is open. Inside you see piles of wooden crates, stacked high, smelling of dry wood, and a large cider press with a wooden handle. You walk into the shed, out of the damp air. It is darker here, smelling of sawdust and old apples. You find a pile of empty burlap sacks in the corner. They look soft and inviting. You sit down on them, leaning your back against the wooden wall of the shed. The burlap is scratchy, but the smell is comforting, earthy and real. You listen to the wind picking up outside, rustling the leaves in the orchard, SHH sound that wraps around the shed. You're safe inside, a small seed in a wooden shell, waiting for winter, waiting for sleep. Your eyes trace the grain of the wood on the wall opposite you, swirling lines of growth, darker and lighter, counting the rings, counting the years. Your eyelids are heavy, so heavy, the smell of the apples is intoxicating. A sweet, drowsy perfume that lulls you. You pull your knees up to your chest and rest your head on your arms, curling into a ball. The shed is getting darker as the fog thickens outside, blocking out the light. You're drifting away from the orchard, drifting away from the farm, floating on the scent of apples, floating on the sound of the wind, down, down, down into the earth, into the roots, into the deep, restful sleep of season, where everything stops, everything waits, everything rests. Sleep now, sleep. The scent of apples and dry wood slowly fades away as the wooden walls of the shed dissolve into the mist. The air around you changes, becoming damp and smelling of rain on hot asphalt and the exhaust of distant city buses. You find yourself standing on a cobblestone street in an old historic neighborhood. The stones are wet and black, reflecting the amber glow of the gas-style street lamps that line the sidewalk. It is late at night and the city is asleep. The only sound is the steady rhythm of light rain falling on the street. Hiss, hiss, washing the city clean. You walk slowly down the sidewalk, your shoes making a sharp clicking sound on the wet stones. You pass by shop windows that are dark and shuttered, a bakery with empty shelves, a tailor shop with mannequins standing in silent poses. You come to a stop in front of a small shop with a bow window filled with old books. The sign above the door is faded gold leaf peeling slightly at the edges, reading rare books and maps. A warm yellow light glows from deep within the shop, inviting you out of the rain. You push the heavy wooden door open, and a small brass bell above your head chimes softly. Dingling, a gentle, welcoming sound that disturbs the dusty silence. You step inside, and the door closes behind you, shutting out the rain and the street noise instantly. The air inside is warm and dry, smelling intensely of old paper and leather and binding glue and dust. It is a smell that is thick with history and comfort. The shop is a labyrinth of tall wooden shelves that reach all the way to the tin ceiling. Books are piled everywhere, on tables, on the floor, on chairs, a chaotic yet cozy arrangement of knowledge. You walk down a narrow aisle between two towering shelves, running your finger along the spines of the books, feeling the textures, rough cloth, smooth leather, embossed titles, crumbling paper. You stop to look at a shelf of encyclopedias, 20 volumes of dark blue, binding with gold lettering, standing in a perfect soldierly row, containing the knowledge of the world from 100 years ago. You imagine the person who bought them, the pride they felt, the hours they spent reading by candlelight. Now they rest here, silent and waiting. You continue deeper into the shop, the floorboards creaking softly under your weight, creak, creak, announcing your presence to the empty room. You reach the back of the shop where an old iron spiral staircase leads up to a mezzanine level. You place your hand on the cold iron railing and climb up, your footsteps ringing softly on the metal steps, up and up, round and round, until you reach the top. The mezzanine is a small balcony overlooking the shop floor. From here, you can see the tops of the shelves, a sea of books stretching out below you. There's a small reading nook here, tucked away in the corner, with a rug that is threadbare but soft and a large overstuffed armchair upholstered in a faded floral fabric. A small table, stands next to it with a reading lamp that casts a pool of warm yellow light on the open pages of a book left by a previous reader. You walk over to the chair and sit down. The springs creak in protest, but the cushion is soft and welcoming. You lean back and look around your private sanctuary. Dust motes are dancing in the beam of light from the lamp, swirling in slow, lazy circles, rising and falling on invisible currents of air. You watch a single speck of dust, following its journey, up, down, sideways, suspended in the light, existing in the moment. You listen to the sound of the rain hitting the roof above you. It is a tin roof, and the rain makes a drumming sound. Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat. A chaotic yet soothing percussion that wraps around the building. You feel completely isolated here, hidden away in a fortress of books, protected by the written word. You pick up the book from the table. It is a heavy volume of poetry. You open at random and read a line. Words about the sea and the moon and the longing for a home. The words float in your mind, disconnecting from their meaning, becoming just sounds, soft syllables that lull you. You close the book and place it back on the table, resting your hand on the cover for a moment, feeling the coolness of the leather. You look at the shadows in the corner of the room, deep and dark and soft, hiding the edges of the world. Narrowing your focus to just a circle of light in the chair, you hear a soft purring sound and look down to see a large gray cat sleeping on a rug near your feet, its chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. Purr, 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 a vibration of pure contentment. You watch the cat sleep, envying its ability to relax so completely, to trust the world so fully. You decide to join it. You let your head fall back against the headrest of the chair, looking up at the tin ceiling, listening to the rain, rat-a-tat-tat, listening to the cat, purr, purr, listening to your own breath, in, out, in, out. The smell of the old books is a sedative, heavy and sweet, weighing down your eyelids, making them feel like they're made of lead. You not keep them open. You do not want to keep them open. You let them close, shutting out the lamp, shutting out the books, shutting out the cat. You are floating in the dark warmth of the shop, drifting on the smell of paper, drifting on the sound of the rain. You imagine the books around you whispering stories to each other in the dark, millions of words swirling in the air, weaving a blanket of narrative around you, tucking you in, telling you that everything is all right, everything is recorded, everything is safe. You feel a deep heaviness in your limbs. Your arms are glued to the armrests. Your legs are glued to the floor. You are sinking into the chair, becoming part of the furniture, a permanent fixture in this quiet room. The rain continues to fall, steady and relentless, a wall of water separating you from the busy world. Inside here, time has stopped. There is no clock ticking, no schedule to keep, only the present moment, only the feeling of rest. You drift deeper, past the books, past the shop, past the city, down into a cellar of sleep, dark and cool and silent, where the air is still and the mind is empty. You are a book on a shelf, closed and resting, waiting to be opened, but not yet, not now. Now is for sleeping, now is for silence. The sound of the rain on the tin roof of the bookshop begins to soften and blur, fading into a white noise that sounds like wind rushing through tall grass. The smell of dust and leather dissolves into fresh, clean scent of damp earth and green vegetation. You find yourself walking along a narrow path in a dense bamboo forest. The stalks are towering high above you, thick and green and smooth, swaying gently in the wind, knocking against each other with a hollow wooden sound. Clack, 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 a natural percussion that echoes through the grove. The light here is dim and filtered, a soft green twilight created by the thick canopy of leaves overhead. You walk slowly on the path which is covered in flat gray stones, your feet finding a rhythm on the uneven surface. Step, stone, step, stone. You run your hand along the bamboo stalk as you pass. It is cool and hard and perfectly smooth, segmented by rings, a marvel of natural engineering. The air is humid and rich with oxygen. You breathe it in deeply, feeling it revitalize your blood, cool and fresh. You come to a small clearing where a traditional tea house stands. It is a simple structure made of dark wood and white paper screens, sitting quietly next to a small pond. The water in the pond is still and dark, reflecting the bamboo and the gray sky. A stone lantern stands at the water's edge covered in thick velvet moss, looking like it has stood there for 1,000 years. You walk across a small wooden bridge that arches over the pond, your footsteps making a hollow thumping sound on the planks. Thump, 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 thump. You reach the tea house and slide the paper door open. It moves silently in its track. Inside the room is empty and clean. The floor is covered in tatama mats that smell of dried straw and grass, a scent that is dry and comforting. You step inside and close the door behind you, softening the sound of bamboo outside. You take off your shoes and step onto the mats. They are firm but yielding under your socks. You walk to the center of the room where a low wooden table sits. On the table is a cast iron kettle resting on a small brazier. The kettle is black and heavy, texture like the skin of an orange. Steam is rising from the spout in a thin, straight column, white against the dark of the walls. You sit down on a flat cushion placed on the floor, crossing your legs, settling into a posture of meditation. You watch the steam rising, twisting and curling as it ascends, disappearing into the shadows of the ceiling. You listen to the sound of water boiling in the kettle, a low, soft rumble, murmuring to itself, bubbling and hot. You pick up a small ceramic cup from the table. It is rough and handmade, glazed in shades of earth and stone. You pour the hot water into the cup, watching it steam. You hold the cup in both hands, feeling the heat transfer to your skin, warming your palms, warming your fingers. You bring the cup to your lips and blow gently. On the steam, watching it scatter, you take a sip. It is just hot water, plain and pure, cleansing and simple. You feel the warmth traveling down your throat, settling in your stomach, radiating outwards, relaxing your core. You look out to the open section of the screen door of the garden. Rain has begun to fall again, a gentle mist that coats the bamboo leaves, making them shine. You hear a sound from the garden, a hollow bamboo tube filling with water, tipping over, clack, spilling the water, then returning to its upright position, fill, tip, clack, return. It is a Shurshiro doshi, a deer scarer, marking the passage of time with its rhythmic movement. You wait for next sound, watching the tube, water trickling, filling, tipping, clack. It is a slow, hypnotic cycle, perfect in its simplicity. You let your breathing match the rhythm of the bamboo. Inhale while it fills, exhale when it tips. Inhale, exhale, clack. Inhale, exhale, clack. Your mind is emptying out, becoming as clear as the water, as empty as a bamboo tube. You are just a vessel for the experience of the moment, holding the silence, holding the peace. You look at the moss growing on the rocks in the garden, a landscape of miniature green hills, soft and fuzzy, drinking the rain. You imagine being the moss, clinging to the rock, slow and still, growing imperceptibly, needing nothing but water and shade, a life of absolute quiet. The light in the tea house is fading as the afternoon wears on. The shadows are stretching across the tatama mats, long and gray. You feel the heaviness in your eyes returning, the steam, the heat, the sound of the rain, the rhythm of the bamboo, all conspiring to pull you down. You set the cup down on the table with a soft click. You uncross your legs and stretch them out on the mat. You lie back, letting your head rest on the cushion. Looking up at the ceiling, the wooden beams are arranged in a geometric pattern, squares within squares. You trace the lines with your eyes, finding order, finding stability. The room is a box of silence, protecting you from the forest, protecting you from the world. You listen to the kettle cooling down, the rumble fading to a whisper, the steam thinning out. Everything is winding down. Everything is coming to rest. You feel the floor supporting you, the earth supporting the floor, a solid foundation that will not move. You can let go of your muscles, let go of your bones, sink into the mat, sink into the straw, sink into the ground. The sound of the bamboo outside is getting further away, a distant echo in the mist, clack, clack, fading into background, becoming part of the silence. Your breath is shallow and even, a thin thread of air moving in and out, sustaining you, relaxing you. You're drifting away from the tea house, drifting away from the garden, floating on the steam, rising up into the gray sky, weightless and formless, becoming part of the clouds, part of the rain, falling softly on the world, sleeping in the forest, sleeping in the stone, sleeping in the deep quiet of the earth. The sensation of floating in the gray clouds slowly fades as the cool, damp air warms up and transforms into the comforting aroma of rising yeast and toasted flour. You find yourself staying inside a small artisanal bakery in the very early hours of the morning, long before the sun has risen. The world outside is pitch black and silent, but inside, here it is warm and golden. The light comes from the glowing embers of a large wood-fired oven built into the brick wall. The oven radiates a steady, gentle heat that warms your face and hands. You look around the room, which is filled with large wooden work tables worn smooth by decades of flour and dough. The air is thick with the smell of bread, a primal and nourishing scent that signals safety and home. You walk over one of the tables where a large amount of dough is resting under a linen cloth. You lift the core of the cloth gently and see the dough underneath, pale and soft, rising slowly in the warmth, breathing and expanding, a living thing sleeping under its blanket. You let the cloth fall back into place, protecting the dough, letting it rest. You walk toward the window and look out. The glass is steamed up from the difference in temperature. You reach out and wipe a small circle on the glass, look into the clear patch of the street outside. It is empty and dark. A solitary streetlight hums in the distance, casting a lonely pool of light on the pavement. No cars, no people, just a sleeping city. You turn back to the warmth of the bakery. You see sacks of flour stacked in the corner, heavy burlap sacks printed with faded logos of windmills and wheat stalks. Fine white dust hangs in the air, catching the light from the oven, swirling slowly like microscopic stars. You walk over to a shelf lined with cooling racks. They are empty now, waiting for the morning bake. The metal wires gleaming softly in the dim light. You hear the sound of fire in the oven, a soft crackling and shifting of logs. Hiss, pop, crackle, a cozy conversation between the wood and the flame. You find a wooden stool in the corner near the oven and sit down. The wood is polished and warm. You lean your back against the warm brick wall next to the oven. The heat seeps through your clothes, relaxing your muscles instantly. Your shoulders drop, your neck loosens. You feel a deep sense of contentment. There is nothing to do here. The bread is rising on its own. The fire is burning on its own. You are just a witness to the slow alchemy of baking. You watch a small clock on the wall. It is an old analog clock with a swinging pendulum. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The sound is loud in the quiet room, marking the seconds, slow and steady. You watch the minute hand. It seems to not move at all. Time is stretching out, slowing down, becoming thick like honey. You close your eyes and listen to the room. The hum of the refrigerator in the back, the tick of the clock, the crackle of the fire, the settling of the building, tiny creaks and groans of wood and stone. You imagine the dough on the table, millions of tiny bubbles forming inside, expanding, lifting, stretching the gluten, a slow microscopic work that requires zero effort from you. You feel like the dough, warm and heavy and soft, expanding into the space, filling the room with your presence. You are safe here, hidden away in the early morning, while the rest of the world is unconscious. You have this sanctuary of warmth all to yourself. You smell the cinnamon and the sugar from a jar left open on the counter, a sweet, spicy note that mixes with the yeast, making you feel drowsy and comfortable. You let your head rest against a brick wall. The rough texture is grounding. You feel your breathing deepening, inhaling the flowery air, exhaling the tension. In and out, slow and deep. You are waiting for nothing. You are simply existing in the warmth. You feel a heaviness in your legs, a heaviness in your arms, a pleasant lethargy that pins you to the stool. You could stay here forever, in this golden light, in this fragrant air, watching the dust motes dance, watching the shadows flicker. The fire is dying down a little now. The light is getting softer, dimmer, more orange. The room is fading into a comfortable gloom, blurring the edges of the tables, blurring the sacks of flour. You are drifting away from the bakery, drifting away from the oven, floating on the scent of bread, floating on the warmth, moving deeper into your own mind down a spiral staircase of relaxation, step by step, down into the cellar of sleep, where it's cool and dark and quiet, stored away like a vintage wine, resting in the silence, resting in the dark, resting in the peace. The warm scent of the bakery slowly dissipates into the cool, neutral air of a climate-controlled corridor. The orange glow of the oven fades into a deep, soothing sapphire blue. You're walking slowly through a massive underwater tunnel in a grand aquarium that is closed at night. The walls and ceiling are made of thick, curved acrylic, creating a transparent tube that winds its way through a giant ocean tank. You are completely surrounded by water, millions of gallons of salt water pressing against the glass, holding back the weight of the ocean. You walk down the center of the tunnel. The floor is carpeted in a soft, dark blue fabric that muffles your footsteps completely, making you feel like you are gliding rather than walking. The only light comes from the tank itself, a shimmering blue radiance that ripples across your hands and face, casting watery shadows on the floor. You look up and see a school of tunas swimming in a perfect circle, their silver bodies flashing in the dim light. Round and round they go, a never-ending loop of motion, moving as one mind, turning and gliding, turning and gliding. You watch them for a long time, entranced by their synchronization. The water distorts your vision, slightly making everything look dreamlike and slow. You hear the low, constant hum of filtration systems, a deep vibrating drone that permeates the building. Hum. It is the sound of the life support, the heartbeat of the building, steady and reliable, drowning out all other thoughts. You continue walking deeper into the tunnel, passing by a rocky outcrop where a large grouper is resting, hovering motionless in the water. Its gills opening and closing slowly. Open, close, pumping oxygen, sustaining life. You look into its large dark eye. It stares back without recognition, ancient and indifferent, simply existing in its watery world. You feel a sense of peace in this indifference, of freedom from expectation. You're just another creature in the dark, watching and waiting. A large shadow glides over you. You look up to see a manta ray flying through the water, its giant wings flapping slowly like a bird in slow motion. It glides over the tunnel, blocking out the light for a moment, majestic and silent, trailing a long, thin tail behind it. You turn your head to follow its path, watching it disappear into the gloom of the deep tank, fading into a ghost. You reach a section of the tunnel where the glass curves sharply, creating a magnifying effect. You stop to look closely at a patch of coral, pink and purple branching structures that look like stone flowers. Tiny fish dart in and out of the branches, bright orange and yellow, hiding and seeking, safe in their fortress. You lean your forehead against the cool acrylic, feeling the chill of the water on the other side. It cools your skin, calming your mind. You focus on the bubbles rising from an aerator on the floor of the tank, a column of silver spheres rushing upwards, wobbling and merging up and up toward the surface far above. You imagine yourself as a bubble, weightless and empty, rising effortlessly through the blue, leaving the bottom behind, leaving the heavy sand behind, rising toward the light. You continue your slow walk. The tunnel seems to go on forever, a blue wormhole through space and time. You feel a heaviness in your legs, a resistance, as if you were walking through water yourself. Every step is slow and deliberate. You find a small bench built into the side of the tunnel, a curved seat molded from the wall. You sit down, your back against a cool surface, looking up into the water. A shark swims by, sleek and gray, moving with a sinister grace. It passes overhead, ignoring you, cruising on its endless patrol. You feel safe inside the tube, separated from the wild, protected and dry. You close your eyes and listen to the hum. Hum. It vibrates in your bones, shaking loose the last of its attention. You visualize the water around you, a heavy blue blanket wrapping you in its embrace, holding you tight, squeezing out the stress, squeezing out the day. You're submerged in the deep, far below the surface, far below the noise. Down here it is just the blue and the quiet. You feel your breathing, slowing down, matching the rhythm of the gills, deep and slow, taking in the filtered air, expelling the old air, finding a rhythm of pure rest. Your head nods forward, heavy and loose, your hands rest open on your lap, fingers uncurled, palms up, receiving the quiet, receiving the sleep. The blue light penetrates your eyelids, a soft glow that signals safety. You are drifting the tank, floating with the rays, floating with the sharks, suspended in the salt, weightless and free, drifting, drifting, drifting. The blue glow of the aquarium tank slowly fades away into the shadows, and the hum of the filtration system dissolves into the rhythmic mechanical sound of ticking. You find yourself standing on the threshold of an antique clock shop in a quiet European village. It is nighttime, and the shop is closed, but the door opens silently for you, allowing you to step inside out of the cool night air. The shop is warm and smells of cedar wood and brass polish and machine oil. It is a small, cluttered space, filled from floor to ceiling with clocks of every shape and size. There are tall grandfather clocks standing like sentinels against the walls, their wooden cases polished to a deep shine. There are mantel clocks made of black marble sitting on shelves. There are cuckoo clocks hanging from the rafters with their weights dangling on long chains, and hundreds of pocket watches resting on velvet trays and glass cabinets. The room is filled with sound, a cacophony of ticking that somehow blends into a soothing white noise. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Hundreds of mechanisms working in imperfect unison. Some fast and frantic, some slow and majestic, creating a layered texture sound that fills every corner of the room. You walk slowly down the narrow aisle between clocks, careful not to bump into anything. Watching the pendulum swing back and forth, gold discs and silver discs slicing through the air, marking the passage of time, dividing the seconds into tiny, manageable pieces. You stop in front of a particularly large grandfather clock. Its face is made of white enamel with delicate black numerals. The hands ornate filigree made of brass. You watch the second hand move, jumping forward with a distinct click, resting for a moment, then jumping again. A life of stop and go. Stop and go. You find yourself breathing in time with the swing of its pendulum. Inhale left, exhale right. Inhale left, exhale right. It is a slow rhythm, slower than your normal breath, forcing you to slow down, forcing you to relax. The shop is lit by a single lamp on a workbench in the back, casting long moving shadows as the pendulum swing to the light. The shadows dance on the walls, swaying back and forth like trees in a wind, mesmerizing and repetitive. You walk toward the back of the shop where an old leather wingback chair sits near the workbench. The leather is cracked and worn, revealing the suede beneath. It looks incredibly comfortable, a chair. Shaped by years of rest, you sit down and the chair sighs under your weight. Creaking softly, you lean your head back and look up at the ceiling, which is lost in the gloom. You're surrounded by time, but here time feels meaningless. The clocks are just machines. The seconds are just gears turning. There is no rush, no deadline, no place to go. You listen to the ticking, trying to pick out individual clocks. A high-pitched tick-tick-tick from a small carriage clock. A deep, heavy tock-tock-tock from a wall clock. They weave together into a blanket of sound that wraps around you, protecting you from the silence outside. You feel a deep heaviness in your eyelids. The rhythmic motion of the pendulums is making your eyes droop, back and forth, back and forth. You cannot look away. You do not want to look away. You are in a trance, hypnotized by the mechanics of the shop. You feel your heartbeat slowing down, attempting to sync with the slowest clock in the room. Thud, thud, thud. A steady, slow beat of rest. You look at the workbench, covered in tiny tools, tweezers and screwdrivers and magnifying glasses, scattered among brass gears and springs. You imagine the clockmaker, sitting here for hours, focused on the tiny details, working with patience and precision, fixing the broken time, restoring order. You feel a sense of order returning to your own mind. The chaotic thoughts are being organized, filed away, ticked away, leaving only a clear, empty space. A space for sleep, a space for dreams. The air in the shop is still and dust-free, perfectly preserved. You feel like you're inside a clock yourself, a part of the mechanism, a cog in the wheel of the night, turning slowly, quiet and oiled, functioning perfectly in the dark. You let your hands rest on the arms of the chair, feeling the cool leather. Your fingers are still, your feet are still, your body is heavy as lead, sinking into the chair, sinking into the floor, sinking into the foundation of the shop. The ticking sound seems to be getting softer, moving further away. Or perhaps you are moving further away, drifting deeper into your own mind. The individual ticks are blurring into a stream of sound like a gentle rain or a flowing river. A river of time carrying you away, floating on the current of seconds, drifting past the minutes, drifting past the hours, down toward the ocean of sleep, vast and deep and silent, where there are no clocks, no schedules, no time at all, just the eternal now, just a rest, just a peace. You are ready to let go completely, ready to stop counting, ready to stop watching, your eyes close, shutting out the pendulums, shutting out the brass, shutting out the room. You are alone in the dark, comfortable and warm, listening to the heartbeat of the shop. Tick-tock, tick-tock, fading, 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 until there is only the silence of your own sleep. The ticking of the hundreds of clocks slowly fades into a low, continuous drone like a distant fan. The smell of brass and oil dissolves and is replaced by the earthy damp scent of wet clay and chalk dust. You find yourself sitting on a wooden stool in a pottery studio late at night. The room is spacious and dim with concrete floors. They're splattered with dry, gray droplets of clay. Long wooden shelves line the walls filled with rows of drying pots, bowls and mugs and vases, all in various stages of gray, waiting for the fire. The only light comes from a single overhead bulb that casts a cone of bright white light on the potter's wheel in front of you. leaving the rest of the room in shadow. You look at the wheelhead, a flat metal disc that is still and silent. You place a ball of soft gray clay in the center. Thwack. It hits the metal with a satisfying, solid sound. You reach out and flip a switch, and the wheel begins to spin. Whir! A low, steady mechanical hum that vibrates through the stool and into your spine. You dip your hands into a bucket of warm water. The water is cloudy and milky with slip. You bring your wet hands to the spinning clay. Feeling the friction, the coolness, the resistance, you press your palms against a mound, squeezing it, centering it, forcing it into alignment. The clay fights back for a moment and then yields, becoming a smooth, perfectly centered dome spinning true under your hands. You can feel the microscopic grit in the clay, the texture of the earth itself. You press your thumbs into the center of the mound, opening it up, creating a well. The walls rise up between your fingers, growing taller and thinner, rising like magic from the spinning mass. You watch the clay spinning round and round, a blur of gray motion. Your eyes lock on the rim of the pot, watching it turn smooth and even. You are mesmerized by the rotation, by the symmetry, by the creation of form from nothing. The sound of the wheel is constant, whir, a white noise that blocks out the world. You pick up a small yellow sponge and press it against the clay, smoothing the surface, wiping away the marks of your fingers, leaving a finish as smooth as glass. Water trickles down your wrists, cool and soothing, dripping back into the splash pan, drip, drip. You use a wire tool to cut the pot from the wheel, sliding it underneath, slicing through the clay. You carefully lift the pot. It is soft and vulnerable, changing shape. Slightly in your hands, you walk over to a shelf and place it next to a dozen others, a row of identical gray soldiers dry in the dark. You look at the shelves again, seeing the history of work, the cups, the plates, the pitchers, all resting, all waiting. The air in the studio is cool and humid, kept that way to prevent the clay from drying too fast. It feels heavy in your lungs, grounding you, slowing you down. You walk back to the wheel and sit down again, watching the empty metal disc spin, the patterns of the remaining clay creating spirals that draw your eye in towards the center, spiraling down, spiraling in. You grab a rag and wipe the wheel. The motion is repetitive, round and round, cleaning the metal, revealing the shine. You turn off the switch and the hum dies away, lowering in pitch until it stops completely. Silence rushes back into the room, a heavy, dusty silence that feels thick and ancient. You look at your hands. They are covered in a thin film of drying clay, turning white and powdery, making your skin feel tight and stiff. You walk over to a large stone sink in the corner. The faucet is old and brass. You turn the handle and water rushes out, splashing into the basin. You wash your hands, the water turning gray, swirling down the drain, carrying the earth back to the pipes, back to ground. You dry your hands on a rough towel, feeling the blood returning to your fingers, pink and clean. You look around the studio one last time, seeing the kiln. In the corner, a large metal box that radiates a faint residual heat from a firing days ago. You walk over to it and place your hand on the metal side. It is just barely warm, a ghost of heat, comforting and solid. You find an old sofa in the back of the studio. The fabric is worn and covered in a throw blanket that is dusted with white powder. You sit down and the sofa swallows you, soft and broken in. You lean your head back and look at the rafters, seeing the dust motes dancing in the beam of the lone light bulb, tiny planets orbiting in the stillness. You feel a profound sense of accomplishment, not because you did anything, but because the work is done, the pots are made, the wheel is clean, the day is over. You listen to the settling of the building, the concrete cooling, the clay shrinking, tiny sound of physics happening in the dark, crack, pop, settle. You feel your body mimicking the clay, heavy and dense, sinking into the sofa, settling into a shape of rest. Gravity is pulling on you, pulling your eyelids down, pulling your shoulders down. You are grounded, connected to the earth, connected to the floor. You cannot float away here. You are too heavy, too relaxed. The smell of the wet dust is a lullaby, damp and primitive, taking you back to the beginning, back to the mud, back to the quiet. Your breathing is slow and shallow, barely moving the dust in the air. You are a statue in the corner, motionless and peaceful, waiting for clay to dry, waiting for the fire, but not tonight. Tonight is for drying, tonight is for resting, tonight is for sleep, deep and heavy and gray. Sleep now in the dust, in the dark, sleep. The smell of wet clay and dust slowly fades away, replaced by the warm, sweet scent of melted beeswax and honey. You find yourself standing in the back room of an old candle maker's shop. The room is small and intimate, lit only by the soft glow of a few finished candles burning on a wooden shelf. The air is thick and warm, wrapping around you like a heated blanket. In the center of the room is a large table covered in layers of hardened wax droplets in every color imaginable, red and blue and gold and white. A history of the work done here. There are large metal vats of melted wax kept liquid by low, gentle heaters. You walk over to a vat of yellow beeswax. The surface is perfectly smooth and golden, looking like a pool of liquid amber. You can smell the honey scent rising from it. Sweet and natural, a smell of summer meadows trapped in the wax. You watch a small ripple form on the surface as a draft moves across the room. The ripple spreads out slowly and disappears, returning the surface to glass. You see a rack of wicks hanging above the table, long white cotton strings weighted at the bottom, waiting to be dipped. You imagine the process, the slow, rhythmic dipping of the string into the hot wax, down and up, layer upon layer building slowly over hours, a lesson in patience and gradual growth. You walk over to a shelf where hundreds of finished candles are stored. They are arranged by color and scent, creating a rainbow in the dim light. You run your finger along a row of tall pillar candles, feeling the smooth, waxy texture, cool and solid. Your fingernail leaves a tiny mark, a proof of the softness of the material. You pick up a jar candle filled with white wax. You lift it to your nose and inhale. It smells of clean linen and lavender, a fresh soapy scent that clears your mind. You place it back on the shelf, perfectly aligned with the others. You look at the flames of the burning candles on a high shelf. They are teardrops of fire, standing tall and straight in the still air. The wicks are black and curved, glowing red at the tip, feeding the flame with melted wax. You watch the pool of liquid wax at the base of the flame. It is clear and hot, holding the reflection of the fire. You watch the wax slowly receding as the candle burns down, a microscopic movement that marks the passing of the night. Burn, melt, vanish, burn, melt, vanish. It is a peaceful cycle of consumption and light. You find a large wooden rocking chair. In the corner of the room, it has a woven cane seat and a high back. You sit down and would groan softly, a welcoming sound. You push off gently with your toes and the chair begins to rock back and forth, squeak, 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 a rhythmic lullaby that matches the beating of your heart. You look at the shadows cast by the candle flames on the walls. They are tall and flickering, dancing with the movement of the air, stretching up to the ceiling, shrinking down to the floor, a silent performance of light and dark. The room is so quiet you can hear the softness of the flames, barely audible, a whisper of fire. You feel the warmth of the room soaking into your bones, loosening your muscles, melting your tension just like the wax in the vats. You feel heavy and liquid, your arms hanging loose over the arms of the chair, your legs relaxed and extended. You are melting into the chair, melting into the warmth, melting into the moment. You close your eyes and the scent of the beeswax becomes stronger, filling your senses, taking you to a place of golden light and warmth. You imagine you are a bee, sleeping in a hive, surrounded by the hum of the colony, warm and safe and protected, walls of wax around you, honey stored nearby, a winter sleep that lasts for months. You drift deeper into this feeling of safety. The rocking chair slows down, the squeaking stops. You are still now, suspended in the quiet. You listen to the silence of the shop, the wax, cooling in the vats, forming a skin on the surface, hardening slowly, returning to a solid state, just as you are returning to a state of rest, returning to your center, returning to sleep. The light from the candles penetrates your eyelids, a soft, warm orange glow that comforts you, telling you that the light is still there, holding back the dark, watching over you. You feel a deep yawn rising up, stretching your face, releasing the last of energy. Your breathing settles into a slow, deep rhythm, inhaling the honey, exhaling the day, inhaling the peace, exhaling the noise. You are safe in the candle shop, safe in the warmth, safe in the chair, drifting away on a river of wax, smooth and slow and golden, flowing toward the sea of sleep, carrying you gently, without effort, without worry, just floating, just being, just sleeping. The golden warmth of the candle shop slowly cools down, and the scent of honey fades into the dry, dusty smell of old cardboard and vinyl. You find yourself standing in the narrow aisle of a vintage record store late at night. The shop is long and narrow like a tunnel lined with rows and rows of wooden crates filled with vinyl records. The lighting is dim, coming from strings of small white fairy lights draped along the shelves, casting a soft festive glow on the dust motes floating in the air. You walk slowly down the aisle, your shoes making a soft scuffing sound on the worn wooden floorboard. Scuff, scuff, a quiet rhythm in the silent shop. You reach out and run your fingers along the tops of the record sleeves, feeling the worn cardboard. Some are smooth and glossy, others are rough and textured, frayed at the edges from years of handling. You stop at a crate marked jazz and begin to flip through the records. Flip, flip, flip. The sound of the cardboard covers hitting each. Other is sharp and rhythmic, like a slow metronome. You look at the cover art, faded photographs of saxophone players in smoky clubs, abstract paintings in muted colors, typography from decades ago. You're looking at a history of sound frozen in silence. You pull a record out of the crate and slide the black vinyl disc out of its paper sleeve. Holding it by the edges, the light catches the grooves, thousands of tiny spiral lines etched into the plastic. A physical map of music. You walk over to a listening station in the corner where a vintage turntable sits on a sturdy wooden table. The turntable is heavy and silver with a thick rubber mat. You place the record gently on the spindle, fitting the hole of the metal pin. You turn the switch and the platter begins to spin round and round, a perfect black circle in motion. You lift the tone arm. It is light and balanced, hovering over the spinning disc. You lower it slowly, watching the needle touch the vinyl. There is a moment of silence, then a soft crackle and pop. The sound of dust, the sound of age, then a low, warm bass note fills the headphones, slow and steady. Thump, thump, thump. You are not listening to a song so much as a mood, a vibration. You watch the label of the record spinning in the center, a blur of red and white text, rotating at 33 revolutions per minute, a hypnotic speed that draws your eye into the center, spiraling down into the hole, spiraling down into the music. The shop is silent around you. The music is contained in the headphones. A private concert for one. You feel the vibration of the bass in your ears, a gentle massage for your eardrums, blocking out the world, blocking out the thoughts. You lean back against a listening station, looking out at the rows of records, imagining the millions of songs trapped in the grooves, waiting to be released, waiting to be heard. But right now they are sleeping, standing upright in their crates, silent and still. You feel a kinship with them. You too are waiting to sleep, waiting to be still. The record ends and the needle lifts automatically, returning to its rest with a soft click. The platter stops spinning. Silence rushes back into the headphones, a deep, profound silence that feels louder than the music. You take the headphones off and place them on the table. The foam pads are soft and worn. You look at the poster on the wall, a faded concert bill from 1972. The colors are washed out. The edges are curled, a memory of a night long ago. You find an old velvet sofa in the back of the shop. The fabric is crushed and purple, smelling of old books and patchouli. You sit down and the cushions sink deep under your weight, swallowing you up. You put your feet up on a stack of magazines, crossing your ankles. Settling in, you watch the fairy lights twinkling above you, tiny stars in a ceiling of darkness. They blur as your eyes lose focus, becoming soft balls of light, floating in the dark. The air in the shop is cool and still, circulating slowly around the stacks of vinyl, preserving the plastic, preserving the sound, preserving you. You feel heavy and slow, like a record player at the wrong speed. Everything is slowed down. The world is dragging. Your eyelids are dragging. Gravity is pulling them down, down over your eyes, shutting out the shop, shutting out the crates. You are drifting in the groove of the night, a needle on a silent track, sliding smoothly towards the center. No bumps, no scratches, just a smooth black silence. You're spinning slowly in the dark, weightless and free. Turn with the earth, turn with the night, finding your rhythm, finding your rest. The smell of the vinyl is comforting, a smell of permanence, a smell of memories. You let go of the day, let go of the noise, slip into the sleep of sleep, protected and covered, stored away on the shelf of dreams, safe and sound. Sleep now. The purple hue of the record shop slowly fades from your vision, and the smell of old vinyl dissolves into the clean, dry scent of raw cotton and wool. You find yourself standing in the center of a vast fabric warehouse in the middle of the night. The space is enormous, with high ceilings lost in the shadows. The only light comes from the moon shining through high, clear-story windows, casting long, rectangular beams of pale blue light onto the floor. The room is filled with rows and rows of fabric. Bolts standing upright like silent, colorful soldiers. Thousands of them arranged by color and texture, creating a maze of textiles. You walk slowly down a wide aisle. The floor is old polished concrete that feels cool through the soles of your shoes. You reach out and run your hand along the tops of the bolts as you pass, feeling the different textures. The smooth slide of silk, the rough warmth of wool, the crisp dryness of linen, the soft pile of velvet. It is a sensory library, a museum of touch. The air here is still and silent. The fabric absorbs every sound, making the room feel incredibly hushed and private, like being inside a padded box. You stop to look at a roll of deep blue velvet, the color of the midnight sky. You brush the nap of the velvet against the grain, watching the color shift from dark to light. Then you brush it back down, smoothing it out, restoring the order. It is a satisfying tactile experience, simple and calming. You continue walking deeper into the warehouse. The smell of the fabric is stronger here, a smell of starch and dye and natural fibers, a smell that reminds you of new clothes and fresh laundry. You see a large wooden cutting table in the center of the room. It is scarred with thousands of tiny cuts from years of scissors and knives, a history of creation etched into the wood. A heavy pair of iron shears sits on the table, closed and cold, resting after a long day. Next to them is a box of tailor's chalk, small triangles of white and blue. You pick up a piece of chalk. It feels dry and powdery. You draw a single straight line on the wood of the table, watching the white dust trail behind your hand, a line that goes nowhere, a line that means nothing, just a mark in the dark. You wipe the chalk dust from your fingers and continue your walk. You pass a section of patterned silks, florals and paisleys and stripes, shimmering in the moonlight, looking like frozen waterfalls of color. The patterns are complex and hypnotic, winding vines and geometric shapes. You trace a paisley swirl with your eye, round and round, getting lost in the design. Then your mind unwind with the curve. You hear a soft rustle somewhere in the room, perhaps a bolt of fabric settling, or a draft moving a loose end of cloth. Essay's whip, a soft whisper of movement that emphasizes the stillness. You feel a sense of abundance here, surrounded by enough material to make blankets for the whole world, enough warmth to cover everyone. It makes you feel secure, provided for. You find a corner of the warehouse where finished quilts are stacked, high piles of thick patchwork blankets reaching up toward the ceiling. You walk over to the stack. The quilts are soft and inviting, a tower of comfort. You touch the edge of a quilt, feeling the stitching, the tiny bumps of thread connecting the layers, holding the batting inside. You find a low pile of heavy wool blankets nearby, folded neatly into a makeshift bed. You sit down on the pile. The wool is firm but giving, smelling of sheep and lanolin, a primitive and earthy scent. You lie back on the blankets, sinking into the layers. The wool scratches gently against your clothes, a reminder of the material's origin. You look up at the high windows, watching the dust motes floating in the moonbeams, slow and lazy. Turning in the air, you imagine the dust settling on the fabric, a slow accumulation of time, covering the colors in a fine gray mist. You feel the weight of the warehouse around you, tons of fabric pressing in, insulating you from the cold, insulating you from the noise. You are wrapped in the center of the maze, hidden behind walls of cotton and silk. No one can find you here. No one knows you are here. You are completely alone and completely safe. You close your eyes and imagine the fabrics unrolling, long ribbons of color flowing out of the warehouse, covering the streets, covering the city, softening the hard edges of the world, wrapping everything in a soft, silent layer. Your breathing is slow and deep, inhaling the scent of cotton, exhaling the tension of the day. Your body feels heavy, pinned down by the gravity of sleep. Your limbs are loose and relaxed. Your hands are open and still. You are a spool of thread unwound, loose and free. No tension, no knots, just a long, smooth line of rest. You drift deeper into the wool, deeper into the dark. The silence of the warehouse is a physical weight, pressing down on your eyelids, pressing down on your chest, a comforting pressure that holds you in place, preventing you from floating away, keeping you grounded in the sleep. You are ready to stay here, ready to be part of the inventory. Store away from night, quiet and still. Sleep now, in the velvet dark. Sleep. The smell of raw cotton and wool slowly fades from the air, replaced by the dry, sharp scent of old ink and sealing wax and dusty canvas. You find yourself standing in the main sorting room of an abandoned post office from the turn of the century. The room is cavernous, with a high vaulted ceiling where iron rafters crisscross in the shadows. The floor is made of worn wooden planks that are polished to a shine by the feet of thousands of postal workers who have walked here before. The only light comes from a moon shining through high arched windows, casting pale blue rectangles on the floor. The room is filled with rows and rows of wooden sorting cubbies, thousands of small square pigeonholes stacked floor to ceiling, looking like a giant honeycomb made of dark oak. You walk slowly down the central aisle, your footsteps echoing softly in the vast empty space. Clip-clop, clip-clop, a lonely sound that emphasizes the solitude. You look at the brass labels under each pigeonhole. Faded. Handwritten scripts reading names of towns and streets that feel distant in Old Pleasantville, Oak Lane, River Road. Names that evoke a quiet, simple life. You reach out and touch the wood of the sorting case. It is smooth and cool, worn down by the friction of millions of letters sliding in and out. Slide, clunk, slide, clunk. You imagine the rhythm of the work, the swift hands of the sorters, the shuffle of the paper, the steady flow of communication. You see a canvas mailbag hanging from A. Metal hook on a rolling cart. The canvas is thick and rough, stamped with a faded government seal. It smells of jute and travel, a smell of miles traveled in train cars and trucks. You walk over to a large sorting table in the center of the room. The surface is scarred and stained with ink. A heavy iron scale sits on the table. Its brass pans balance perfectly in the still air, waiting to weigh a package that will never come. You place your hand on the cold eye of the scale, feeling its weight, its permanence. You pick up a stray piece of twine left on the table. It is rough and hairy. You wrap it slowly around your finger, round and round, watching the spiral form, a mindless, repetitive action that soothes your nerves. You look at the wall where a large mechanical clock hangs. Its face is yellow with age. The hands are stopped at 3 o'clock, freezing the room in an eternal late night. There is no time here, no deadlines, no rush. The mail has all been delivered. The work is done. You walk deeper into the room toward the back where the dead letter office is located, a caged section filled with boxes of undeliverable mail. You look through the wire mesh at the stacks of envelopes, yellowing paper with illegible addresses, secrets that were never told, news that never arrived, resting peacefully in the dark. You feel a sense of calm looking at them, a realization that it is okay for things to be lost, okay for things to be unfinished, okay to just stop. You find a pile of empty mail sacks stacked in the corner. They look like giant pillows, soft and lumpy. You sit down on the bottom sack, leaning your back against the stack. The canvas crunches softly under you, a dry, comforting sound. You stretch your legs out on the wooden floor, crossing your ankles, letting your feet relax. You look up at the ceiling again, watching the shadows of the rafters. They look like a net catching the darkness, holding above you. You close your eyes and listen to the silence of the post office. It is a silence filled with whispers of the past. The scratch of a fountain pen on paper, the wet slap of a stamp being affixed, the rustle of a letter being folded, H-fold, H-fold. You imagine you're a letter folded neatly inside an envelope, protected and hidden, waiting in a dark box, traveling slowly to your destination. You have no control over the journey. You are just carried past from hand to hand, from bag to bag, a passive traveler in the dark. You feel the stamp on your corner, a small badge of value. You feel the glue sealing you in, keeping you safe. You are drifting on a conveyor belt of sleep, moving smoothly and steadily. Hum. The belt carries you past the sorting machines, past the trucks, past the noise, down a chute into a deep bin of soft silence. You land softly among thousands of other letters, a pile of white quiet. You settle in, finding your place, surrounded by paper, surrounded by words, surrounded by sleep. The smell of the old ink is intoxicating, a heavy chemical scent that weighs down your mind, erasing your thoughts, leaving only a blank page, white and clean, waiting for dreams to be written. But not yet, for now the page remains blank, smooth and unblemished. You breathe in the dust of the room, tasting the history, tasting the quiet. Your chest rises and falls with the rhythm of a slow stamping machine. Thump, thump, stamping sleep on every second, stamping rest on every minute. You are approved for delivery to the land of dreams, stamped and sorted, ready to go. You let go of the twine, let go of the table, let go of the room. You are sliding down into the mailbag, deep into the canvas darkness, wrapped up and tied shut, safe and sound, delivered to the night. Sleep now. The smell of the old canvas. Mailbag slowly fades away, replaced by the scent of heavy velvet curtains and faint traces of old grease paint and face powder. You find yourself standing center stage in a grand old opera house that is completely empty and silent. The auditorium stretches out before you, a vast cavern of deep shadows and gold leaf. The only light comes from a single ghost light standing on a metal stand in the middle of the stage. A bare bulb inside a wire cage, casting a stark white glow that barely reaches the first row of seats. You look out into the darkness, seeing the rows of empty seats curved in semicircles, hundreds of them upholstered in deep red plush fabric. Silent and expectant, waiting for an audience that has gone home long ago. You walk toward the edge of the stage, your footsteps echoing loudly on the wooden floorboards, hollow and resonant, clomp, 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 a sound that travels up to the highest balcony and bounces back to you, verifying the emptiness of the hall. You look down into the orchestra pit, a deep dark trench where the musicians usually sit, now just a black void of silence. You catch the faint glint of a brass railing in the gloom. You look up at the private boxes lining the walls. Small balconies draped in heavy gold tassels, looking like sleepy half-closed eyes watching you from the dark. You walk over to the side of the stage where the massive main curtains hang, folds of thick red velvet that tower above you, disappearing into the darkness of the fly tower. You reach out and touch the fabric. It is incredibly thick and soft, dusty with age, heavy and dampening. You can feel the sheer weight of it, tons of fabric hanging motionless, blocking the view, holding back the secrets of the backstage. You walk past the curtain into the wings, entering a maze of ropes and pulleys and sandbags. The air here smells of hemp rope and dry wood and canvas, a backstage smell that is practical and raw. You look up in the fly tower, a soaring vertical space filled with hanging backdrops, painted skies and painted forests and painted cities, all hanging silently in the dark, suspended in midair, waiting to be lowered, waiting to be seen. You find a large wooden prop trunk sitting in the shadows. It is bound in black iron and looks ancient. You sit down on the lid of the trunk. The wood is cool and smooth under your hands. You lean your back against a stack of unused scenery, a flat painted to look like a brick wall. It feels like rough canvas. You listen to the silence of theater. It is a dramatic silence, a silence that feels thick and populated by memories. You can almost hear the echo of past arias, high notes hanging in the rafters, fading away into nothing, vibrations trapped in the wood. You watch the ghost light on the stage through the gap in the curtains. A lonely sentinel keeping the shadows at bay. It does not flicker. It just burns steady and true, a beak in the dark. You feel a deep drowsiness coming over you, the result of the hushed atmosphere. The heavy curtains seem to be muffling your thoughts, damping down the noise in your head, absorbing your worry. You are just a prop now, stored backstage, out of sight, out of mind, quiet and still. You close your eyes and imagine the curtain rising, but instead of an audience, there is just a beautiful night sky, the painted stars on the backdrop becoming real. Twinkling above the stage, the painted moon rising over the hills, casting a cool blue light on the floorboards. You are drifting into the scenery, becoming part of the set, a silent character in a silent play. The applause has ended. The music has ended. The lights are out. There's only the ghost light and you, and the deep velvety sleep that brings down the final curtain, lowering slowly, heavy and soft, blocking out the world, blocking out the stage, leaving you in the peace of the wings. Sleep now. The heavy red velvet of the opera curtain slowly melts away into a white mist, and the smell of old dust is replaced by the sharp, clean scent of eucalyptus and wet stone. You find yourself standing at the edge of a massive indoor pool in an ancient thermal bathhouse. The room is grand and cavernous, with a high domed ceiling made of white stone that catches the echoes of the water. The air is thick with steam that rises from the warm water, creating a soft, foggy atmosphere that blurs the edges of the room. You are alone in this sanctuary of water and stone. The only sound is a gentle lapping of the water against the marble rim of the pool, lap, 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 and the occasional distant drip of condensation falling from the ceiling, plip, plip. You take a step on the heated tile floor, your bare feet feeling the warmth of the stone. It is a smooth, comforting heat that travels up your legs, relaxing your muscles instantly. You walk slowly around the perimeter of the pool, trailing your hand in the water. It is perfectly warm, the temperature of the body, creating no shock, just a seamless transition from air to water. The pool is lined with mosaic tiles and shades of aquamarine and turquoise, shimmering under the surface like dragon scales. You find a set of wide stone steps leading down into the water. You step down, one step, the water covering your ankles, 2 steps, covering your knees, 3 steps, covering your waist. You slide deeper into the embrace of the warmth, letting out a long, slow breath as the water takes the weight of your gravity. You push off gently and begin to float on your back, your ears submerged in the water, muting the world, muffling the drip, muffling the echo, listening only to the sound of your own breath and the swishing of the water. Swish, swish. You look up at the dome above you. There's a small circular opening at the very top, an oculus that lets in a shaft of moonlight, a pale blue spotlight cutting to the steam. You float through the beam of light, feeling the cool air on your wet face for a second before drifting back into the warm shadow. You are weightless here, a piece of driftwood, a leaf on a pond, holding no tension, holding no shape, just fluid. You feel the water supporting your spine, straightening it out, lengthening it, creating space between the vertebrae, washing away the compression of the day. You paddle your hands gently, sculling the water, moving slowly across the pool, creating tiny ripples that spread out and fade away. The smell of the eucalyptus is clearing your sinuses, opening your lungs, making every breath feel deep and cleansing. You drift toward the edge of the pool where a series of marble loungers are built into the water. You settle onto one. The stone is contoured to fit your back. You lie there half submerged, the warm water lapping at your chest, your head resting on the cool marble rim. You close your eyes and listen to the steam, a soft hissing sound as it escapes the vents, hisses, adding more warmth, adding more fog. The room is a cloud, a white, quiet space where nothing exists but temperature and texture. You imagine the history of this place. People coming here for centuries to rest, to heal, to escape the noise of the city. You are part of that lineage of rest, part of the tradition of silence. You feel the moisture on your skin, droplets forming on your forehead, rolling down your cheek, tickling slightly, but you are too relaxed to move, too relaxed to wipe them away. You let them fall, merge with the water of the pool, water returning to water. You feel a heaviness in your limbs that is different from before, a waterlogged heaviness, a pleasant sensation of being anchored. You cannot fly away. You cannot run. You can only float. You can only be still. The silence of the bathhouse is profound, a wet silence that amplifies the quiet. You hear the blood rush in your ears, a whooshing sound like the ocean in a shell. Whoosh, whoosh. The rhythm of life, steady and automatic. You focus on the warmth penetrating your lower back, dissolving a knot of tension you didn't know was there, melting like ice in hot water, layer by layer, until it is gone, leaving only smooth muscle, smooth relaxation. You are turning into water yourself. Your boundaries are dissolving. You don't know where your skin ends and the water begins. You're just a volume of warmth in a warm room, fluid and vast. You drift deeper into this liquid state. The steam seems to be getting thicker, filling your mind with white fog, blanketing your thoughts, muting your internal monologue. There are no words here, only sensations, warmth, wetness, softness, quiet. You are ready to sink, not to drown, but to sink into sleep, to submerge yourself in the unconscious, deeper than the pool, deeper than the stone, down into the thermal spring of dreams, bubbling up from the earth, warm and healing and eternal. You let your head roll to the side, comfortable on the stone, letting go of the neck, letting go of the jaw, letting go of the eyes. The steam wraps you in a cocoon, hiding you from the world, hiding you from the light. You are safe in the mist, safe in the water, safe in the sleep. The steam and the warmth of the thermal bath slowly evaporate, leaving your skin feeling cool and dry. The smell of eucalyptus fades into the rich, pungent scent of spirit varnish and freshly cut spruce. You find yourself standing in the workshop of a master violin maker in the middle of the night. The room is small and cluttered, but organized with chaotic precision. The walls are lined with tools, hundreds of chisels and gouges with wooden handles hanging in neat rows, their metal blades gleaming softly in the moonlight that filters through the dusty window. The air is thick with The smell of wood shavings, a clean organic scent that reminds you of forests and trees. The floor is covered in a soft carpet of curly maple shavings. They are pale and springy under your feet, muffling your steps completely. You walk toward a workbench in the center of the room. It is made of thick, heavy beech with scar by years of work. On the bench sits a violin in progress. The wood is raw and pale, not yet stained. The grain is tight and straight. You run your finger along the curve of the body. The wood is incredibly smooth, sanded to a satin finish. You feel the vibrations of the room in the wood, a silent resonance. You look at the F-holes carved into the top, elegant S-shapes that look like calligraphy, open mouths waiting to speak, waiting to sing. But for now they are silent, resting on the bench. You see a pot of glue keeping warm on a small burner, smelling faintly of animal hide, a traditional smell that connects the shop to centuries of history. You look up at the ceiling where finished instruments are hanging by their scrolls from wires, violins and cellos and violas, their varnished bodies reflecting the dim light, deep ambers and reds and browns. They look like ripe fruit hanging from a strange wooden tree. You imagine the music locked inside them, the concertos and sonatas, the passion and the energy, all dormant, all sleeping, waiting for a bow to wake them up. But tonight there are no bows, only the silence of the shop. You walk over to a corner where a stack of rough wood is drying, billets of maple and spruce that have been aging for decades, waiting for their turn to become music. You sit down on a low wooden stool next to the wood stack. The stool is hard, but the position is restful. You lean back against the wall, which is covered in old sketches and templates made of paper. The paper crinkles softly against your shoulder. Crinkle, crinkle, a dry, whispering sound. You listen to the room. It is a silence filled with tension, the tension of strings, the tension that would bend into shape, holding energy, holding potential. You pick up a small curl of wood from the floor. It is spiral-shaped and light as a feather. You twist it in your fingers, feeling its fragility. You drop it and watch it flutter to the ground, landing without a sound. You look at a jar of varnish on a shelf. The liquid is dark and thick like molasses, catching the light, slow and viscous. You imagine the varnish being applied, coat after coat, drying slowly, requiring endless patience, endless time. You feel your own internal clock slowing down to match the pace of the craft. There is no rushing here. You cannot rush the wood. You cannot rush the drying. You must wait. You must rest. You feel a deep heaviness in your hands. The hands that do the work are tired. They want to be still. They want to let go of the tools, let go of the effort. You rest your hands on your knees, palms open, fingers relaxed. You look at the scroll of a cello leaning against the wall, a perfect spiral carved into the wood, turning it on itself, round and round. Draw your eye into the center. You follow the line of the spiral, getting lost in the geometry, getting lost in the curve. Your eyelids are heavy, drifting down, cutting off the view of the tools, cutting off the view of the instruments. You're surrounded by the smell of the forest, the smell of the trees, accompanying natural blanket. You listen to the wind outside rattle on the window pane gently. Rattle, rattle, a reminder of the cold world outside, making the workshop feel even warmer and safer. You are a piece of wood drying in the stack, sitting quietly in the dark, seasoning, aging, improving with time, doing nothing but existing, waiting for your moment but content to wait, content to sleep. The silence of the violins wraps around you, a silence that is full of music, but quiet music, the music of rest, the music of dreams. You drift deeper into the wood shavings, deeper into the varnish, deeper into the shop, falling asleep in the arms of craft, held by the history, held by the quiet. Sleep now. The scent of spruce wood and varnish slowly fades away, replaced by the rich aroma of fresh brewing coffee and the smell of rain hitting hot pavement. You find yourself standing outside a classic American diner in the middle of the night. The neon sign above you is buzzing softly, a warm pink light that reflects in the puddles on the sidewalk, humming with steady electrical vibration. Beezy beezies, a sound that feels like a city lullaby. You push open the glass door, and a small bell chimes. Ding ding, announcing your arrival to the empty room. The air inside is warm and smells of toast and maple syrup, a comforting midnight breakfast smell. The floor is tiled in black and white checkers, shiny and clean, reflecting the neon light from the window. You walk across the floor, your shoes squeaking softly on the polished tiles. Squeak, squeak. You slide into a booth by the window. The seat is upholstered in red vinyl that is cool and smooth. Sliding against your clothes, you settle. In, feeling the foam cushion compress under you, supportive and bouncy. The table is rimmed with chrome that is cold to the touch. The surface is a speckled gray formica smooth as glass. You look at the napkin holder, the salt and pepper shakers, the bottle of ketchup, all standing in a neat little cluster, silent soldiers of the table, waiting for a meal that isn't happening. You look out the window. Rain is streaking the glass, turning the streetlights outside into long blurry lines of yellow and red, running down the pane like tears. You watch a single drop race, another drop to the bottom, a tiny contest with no winner, just gravity, just water. You see a mug of coffee sitting on the table in front of you, steam rising from it in a lazy spiral. You wrap your hand around the ceramic mug. It is thick and heavy and hot. The heat seeps into your palms, warming your fingers, warming your wrists. You lift the mug to your nose and inhale. The smell is dark and roasted, a deep earthy scent that grounds you. You take a sip. It is hot and bitter and comforting, washing down the throat, settling in the stomach. You look at the counter across the room, a long row of chrome stools with red tops, spinning silently in the draft from the air conditioner, round and round, catching the light. You look at the pie case on the counter, filled with round pies under glass domes, cherry, apple, lemon meringue, sitting perfectly still, untouched and perfect, sugar and crust sleeping under glass. You hear the low hum of the refrigerator. In the back, a constant drone that masks the silence, hum, steady and reliable, keeping the world cool, keeping the world fresh. You lean your head back against a red vinyl booth, looking up at the ceiling fan. It is spinning slowly on its lowest setting, whoosh, 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 moving the air gently, creating a soft breeze that touches your forehead, cooling you, calming you. The diner feels like a capsule out of time, a place where it is always 3 a.m., always raining, always quiet. You feel a sense of anonymity here. You're just a customer in a booth, watching the night go by, needing nothing, doing nothing. The neon light outside flickers briefly, a blink in the night, then returns to its steady hum. You watch the reflection of the sign in the window, reverse letters glowing in the dark. You try to read them backwards, slowly sounding out the letters, a mental puzzle that tires your brain, making your thoughts slow down, making your focus blur. The warmth of the coffee, the hum of the fridge, the sound of rain, the softness of the booth, it all combines to create a heavy blanket of relaxation, weighing you down, pressing you into the seat. You feel your legs relaxing under the table, your feet resting flat on the floor, your arms resting heavy on the table. You are anchored here, safe from the storm outside, safe from a morning that is hours away. You close your eyes and listen to the rain drumming on the flat roof of the diner, a deeper sound than on. The window, thrum, 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 a steady beat that resonates in the walls, enclosing you in a box of sound. You imagine the rain washing the whole city, cleaning the streets, cleaning the buildings, cleaning the air, preparing the world for a new day. But that day is not yet here. Now is the time for the in-between, the time for the quiet, the time for the rest. You drift away from the booth, drift away from the coffee, floating on the smell of the rain, floating on the neon light, dissolving into the atmosphere of the night, becoming part of the diner's silence, stored away like a cup on a shelf, stacked and quiet, waiting, resting, sleeping. The smell of the diner coffee and the rain on the pavement slowly fades away, replaced by the rich, earthy scent of tan leather and strong beeswax polish. You find yourself standing in the middle of a small cobbler shop that has been closed at night. The room is narrow and cozy, lined with shelves that reach from floor to the ceiling. Every inch of shelf space is filled with shoes, brown boots and black dress shoes and high heels, all waiting in pairs, silent and patient, waiting to be mended. The air is thick with the smell of shoe polish, a sharp chemical smell mixed with the natural scent of animal hide. It is a smell of old-fashioned work and craftsmanship. The floor is covered in old linoleum that is worn down in the center from years of customers pacing back and forth. You walk toward the back of the shop where the workbench is located. It is a heavy wooden table covered in tools, hammers with polished heads, awls with wooden handles, jars of nails and tacks, spools of thick wax thread. Everything has its place. Everything is organized. You run your hand along a roll of dark brown leather. It is cool and smooth like skin, flexible and strong. You look at a pair of old work boots sitting on a bench. The leather is cracked and worn. The soles are thin. They look tired, just like you, tired and in need of rest, in need of repair. You imagine the cobbler working on them, stitching the leather, replacing the soles, giving them new life, a slow, meticulous process of renewal. You see a large machine in the corner, a heavy iron stitcher with a large wheel. It is silent now, cold and still, a sleeping giant in the corner. You look at the walls, which are covered in posters of shoe styles from decades ago, faded illustrations of Brogue and Oxfords, a history of fashion frozen in paper. You find an old leather armchair in the corner of the shop, likely used by customers waiting for a quick fix. The leather of the chair is cracked and softened by time, a deep chestnut brown that looks inviting. You sit down and the chair sighs under you, a soft exhale of air from the cushion, PFFFFF. Settling you in, you lean your head back and look at the rows of shoes again. Hundreds of pairs, hundreds of miles walked, hundreds of stories, all resting here tonight. Shoes off feet, toes uncurled, arches relaxed. You feel a sympathy for the shoes, a shared sense of relief at being off duty. The shop is lit by a street lamp outside the window, casting a long rectangular beam of light across the floor, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. You watch the dust, swirling in the light, slow and lazy, rising and falling on invisible currents. You listen to the silence of the shop. It is a heavy silence, insulated by the leather and the rubber, soundproof by the stock. You can hear the faint ticking of a clock on the wall. Tick-tock, tick-tock, a small round clock with a white face, measuring the time of the night. You focus on the rhythm. Tick-tock, tick-tock, allowing it to slow your heart rate, allowing it to slow your breathing. You feel the smell of the polish, making you drowsy, a heavy scent that weighs down your head. Your neck feels loose, your shoulders drop, your hands rest open on your lap, palms up, fingers curled naturally. You're just another object in the shop, waiting to be fixed, waiting to be restored. You close your eyes and imagine the sound of a hammer tapping gently on a sole. Tap, 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 a rhythmic work song that lulls you, fixing the cracks, smoothing the rough edges, making you whole again. You feel a sense of safety here, surrounded by the tools of repair, surrounded by the smell of care. You are safe from the wear and tear of the world, safe from the miles, safe from the walking. You can just sit, you can just be. The chair holds you, the room holds you, the night holds you. You drift deeper into the leather, deeper into the smell, drifting away from the workbench, drifting away from shoes, floating on a cloud of polish, floating on a raft of leather, down a river of rest, smooth and dark and quiet, carrying you toward the ocean of sleep, where the water is deep and still, where there is no walking, only floating, only drifting, only sleeping. The smell of leather and polish in the cobbler's shop gently fades away, dissolving into the cool, clean scent of fresh night air and familiar linen. The walls of the shop melt into the shadows, and you realize that your long journey is finally nearing its end. You have traveled through trains and boats, through museums and forests, through rain and snow, and now you are standing at the end of a long, quiet hallway in a house that feels deeply familiar. This is not a stranger's house. This is your sanctuary, the place where the journey finishes. The floor is covered in thick, soft carpet that welcomes your tired feet. Step, step, silence. You walk toward a heavy wooden door at the end of the hall. The handle is cool to the touch. You turn it slowly and the door opens without a sound, revealing the ultimate room of rest. It is a large bedroom bathed in the soft blue light of the moon coming through a large bay window. The curtains are gently blowing in a light breeze, a soft fabric whisper that says, "Hush." The room is simple and uncluttered, filled only with peace. In the center of the room is a massive bed, the most inviting bed you have ever seen. It is made up with sheets of the purest white cotton, cool and crisp, and a duvet that looks like a cloud captured from the sky, thick and fluffy and warm. There are pillows stacked high, for huge pillows waiting to cradle your head. You walk over the window one last time, and look out. You can see the faint outline of the mountains from where you started, the faint shimmer of the ocean you crossed, the distant lights of the city you visited. All of it is far away now, miles and miles behind you, fading into the past, becoming just a memory of a memory. You draw the heavy velvet curtains shut, swoosh, and the moonlight is blocked out, leaving the room in a comforting absolute darkness, a darkness that is soft and velvety, not scary, but protective, a womb of safety. You turn back to bed, you pull back the cool covers, inviting yourself in. You sit on the edge of the mattress and it sinks perfectly under your weight, holding you, knowing you. You lift your legs and swing them into the bed, sliding down between the sheets. The sensation is exquisite, the contrast of the cool sheets and the warm duvet. The feeling of total support for your back, your legs, your neck. You let your head sink into the pillow. It molds around you, supporting your neck perfectly. You let out a long, deep sigh, a sigh that releases a train, releases the boat, releases a museum, releases the shops, releases an entire journey. You are done traveling. You are done watching. You are done thinking. You are simply here, in the dark, in the quiet, in the bed. Your body feels incredibly heavy, sinking down to the mattress, sinking down to the floor, anchored to the center of the earth. You feel a wave of relaxation starting at your toes, warm and golden, moving up to your feet, your ankles, your calves, shutting down the muscles, turning off the nerves, moving up to your knees, your thighs, your hips, heavy and loose, moving up your spine, relaxing every vertebra, one by one. Click, 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 unzipping the tension, letting it fall away into the dark. Your shoulders drop away from your ears. Your arms fall heavy by your sides. Your fingers uncurl, your jaw loosens. Your tongue rests on the roof of your mouth. Your eyes are soft in their sockets, looking at nothing, seeing nothing. You are safe. You are home. You're finished. The only sound left is the sound of your own heart, slow and steady. Thud, 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 thud. A lullaby from within, beating you gently into the deepest sleep of all. Sleep is gathering around you like a heavy mist, filling the room, filling your mind, filling the world. There is nothing left to do, nowhere left to go. You have arrived. The stillness of the room wraps around you like a second skin, comfortable and tight and safe. The darkness behind your eyelids is no longer empty. It is filled with the warm, heavy velvet of sleep. You feel the boundaries of your body dissolving, fading into mattress, fading into the pillows. You are no longer separate from the bed. You're a part of the quiet, part of the night. The last tiny threads of thought are snapping, one by one, releasing you. Thoughts of tomorrow, thoughts of yesterday, they are all drifting away like smoke in a wind, leaving your mind perfectly clear, perfectly empty. A calm, dark lake with no ripples, no movement, just depth, deep, deep depth. Your breathing has found its slowest rhythm, a barely perceptible rise and fall. Feeding the sleep, sustaining the rest, you feel a pleasant numbness in your limbs, a heavy golden paralysis that feels good, feels right. You have no desire to move, no ability to move. You are anchored in this moment of pure existence. The journey is done, the miles are traveled, the sights are seen, and now there's only this, the destination, the void of sleep, warm and inviting. You feel yourself sinking lower, past the mattress, past the floor, down into the soft, warm earth, held by gravity, held by the planet. You are drifting on a vast ocean of silence, no shore in sight, just water and sky and dark. You are floating on your back, looking up at the void, feeling the gentle swell of the sleep carrying you up and down, up and down, slow and easy. You surrender to the current. You surrender to the dark. You let go of the last bit of control. Let go of the last bit of wakefulness. It slips through your fingers like sand, gone, 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 leaving you light, leaving you free. There is nothing left to hear, nothing left to see, nothing left to feel, only the peace, only the quiet, only the heavy, sweet, restorative sleep washing over you, filling you up, taking you down, deeper and deeper and deeper, until there is no you, no room, no world, just a sleep, the deep sleep, the final sleep. Good night, good night, good night.